move the alerts so they're layered forward. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Let me do the go live. You like the color, you do? You do? I don't know if the go live thing is actually changing or not. I'm not sure if that's actually changing or not. It's nice and green. Usually people don't think green is a very nice color. Live. Well, let me change it. Nope, my profile is under review. Okay. Get some BGM going. How's the volume on that? Nice and quiet? It's a relaxing color. You think so? Not long standing 𝐏𝐴𝐚𝐬𝐞-𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐂𝐓 your tube hates us. Mildly OCD thing for $5. Please stop staring longingly at the picture of Colress and start the stream. I figured out how to change individual monitor backgrounds. So I have Colress on one of my monitors. Because I have this one vertical monitor that I was supposed to use for chat, but it's just so inconvenient to look all the way over at. So instead I just have Colress looking at me. 2 BGMs. Oops. There we go. Nyok, thank you for the $5. Evening, Pippa. Can we discuss your new odd obsession with Colress? I'm concerned. I just have too much emotion. I have to give it an outlet. Limo thing on 333 Jover before it even jarred bros. I want Joe Brandon to say it's Jover. If he can say Dark Brandon, he can say it's Jover. Pippa's actually insane. Sometimes I wonder, but as long as I never get a diagnosis, it's not actually my problem. I don't have to worry about it. I cannot see the chat box. I have to look at screen. Let me pop out the chat. It's Jover. I need him to say it. David Aragon, thank you for coming, Big PP. If I read Mark Twain in public, I'd be cancelled. Zen Gunman, then come, Big PP. Hi, Miss Peppers. You're a gifted performer and comedian. And I just wanted to say thanks for everything, even if you troll us and we troll back. No, I do all the trolling. You guys don't know how to troll. JC, thank you for $1. Leah confused the years of Bezlin and 9/11. She needs a history lesson about Osama bin Laden because this stuff goes way back to 1979. Alex Jaguar, thank you for 5 PPs. Mr. Yura, thank you for $1. Excited for some real literature today, but of all the H.G. Wells stories, of course you choose the furry one. They're not furries, they're animorphs. Background noise, thank you for the $5. Heisenberg in the front yard with a boombox over his head. What will you do, Pippa? I'm sorry, my heart belongs to Colress now. Billy Witch Doctor, thank you for the 5 PPs. Listen, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. I thought Carl Heisenberg would get more extended story, and then he never did. It's not my fault that I had hopes for the DLC. It's not my fault that I thought the DLC was gonna be amazing. And it wasn't. Talking Pope pressing for those, we all have a Colress. You're just brave enough to not hide it from the world. Hell yeah. I'm gonna kill him and then myself. Zen Gunman, thank you for the $2. We told you into spending $300 at Build-A-Bear. You did. You did. Put this up here more. Not covering all the chat. Pippa. Based? Yeah, I think it's romantic. I think it's romantic. I got some water. I'm not gonna open up a soda just yet. I might have a soda. This stream is probably gonna be split into 2 different streams. Because of, well, the fact that it's kind of a long book. It's not terribly long. It's not terribly long. I did look at the length of other audiobooks before deciding on which one that I would read. Rabbit Thinger to Lars, but Colress is going to marry Lumi. He can't marry Lumi, and I'm not willing to do that polycule shit. I'll have to kill Lumi. Esker Curve, thank you for $5. Looking forward to this reading. You have a gifted reading voice, in my opinion. Well, thank you. Novaldo, thank you to Lars. We're reading Animorphs. Yeah. He's also intending for $5. What's Night Lab plushie? I have the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. Am I caught up? Oh, jeez, there's so many. There's so many. Why are you guys... Just stop it. Stop it. We need to get into reading. We need to get into reading. And basically for this... Just gonna take breaks after probably every chapter. Or if a chapter is particularly long, we might stop in the middle of it. But it seems like the chapters are quite short for this book. I've got the list? Okay. Bingo, bingo, tingo, bingo, tingo. There's a modern Romeo and Juliet. Just a whole lot weirder. Oh my god. Jesus Christ. Good? Hi, Pippa. Hello, Minna. Read it a couple years ago. Looking forward to experiencing it again. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. There's nothing quite like... How do I say this? Listening to somebody else read. I wanted to put it more eloquently than just audiobooks, but... yeah, well. Okay, drugs? No, no drugs. No drugs. Alright, let's get started. Let's get started. Checking one last time. Volume, okay? Background music, okay? Everything daijoubu? I have some money. You want it? No, I'm good. Thank you, though. Thank you, though. All good? Alright. Alright, let's get started. Take a sip. Ow, I hit my tooth. Ow, 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 ow. Alright. Introduction. On February the 1st, 1887, the Lady Vane was lost by collision with a derelict when about the latitude 1 south and longitude 107 degrees west. I already misread. On January the 5th, 1888, that is, 11 months and 4 days after, my uncle Edward Prendick, a private gentleman who certainly went aboard the Lady Vane at oh my gosh. So many. Hold on. I'm gonna start over. We're off to a good start. I'm zooming in. Prendick. 𝐒𝐤𝐢𝐚𝐥. Okay, let's start over. It happens. This is gonna be a rough one, perhaps. Introduction. On February the 1st, 1887, the Lady Vane was lost by collision with a derelict when about the latitude 1 degree south and longitude 107 degrees west. On January the 5th, 1888, that is, 11 months and 4 days after, my uncle, Edward Prendick, a private gentleman who certainly went aboard the Lady Vane at 𝐒𝐤𝐢𝐚𝐥 and who had been considered drowned, was picked up in latitude 5 degrees 3 south and longitude 101 west in a small open boat of which the name was illegible, but which is supposed to have belonged to the missing schooner 𝐒𝐴𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐴. What are these names? He gave such a strange account of himself that he was supposed demented. Subsequently, he alleged that his mind was blank from the moment of his escape from the Lady Vane. His case was discussed among psychologists at the time as a curious instance of the lapse of memory consequent upon physical and mental stress. The following narrative was found among his papers by the undersigned, his nephew and heir, but unaccompanied by any definite request for publication. Schooner. The only island known to exist in the region in which my uncle was picked up is Noble's Isle, a small volcanic islet and uninhabited. It was visited in 1891 by HMS Scorpion. A party of sailors then landed, but found nothing living thereon except certain curious white moths, some hogs and rabbits, and some peculiar rats. That this narrative is without confirmation in its most essential particular. With that understood, there seems no harm in putting this strange story before the public in accordance, as I believe, with my uncle's intentions, there is at least this much in its behalf. My uncle passed out of human knowledge about latitude 5 degrees south and longitude 105 degrees east, and reappeared in the same part of the ocean after a space of 11 months. In some way he must have lived during the interval, and it seems that a schooner called the 𝐒𝐴𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐴, with a drunken captain, John Davies, did start from Africa with a puma and certain other animals aboard in January 1887. That the vessel was well known at the several ports in the South Pacific, and that it finally disappeared from those seas, with a considerable amount of copra aboard. Sailing to its unknown fate from Bena in December 1887, a date that tallies entirely with my uncle's story. Charles Edward Prendick. Copra, my bad. Copra, okay, and so ends the introduction. I gotta get the nerves out, Chad. I gotta get the nerves out. Ah! Chapter 1. It's always so... ESL! It's not ESL! You're doing fine, thank you. What do you mean nerves? I get nervous reading in front of people. I mean, I get nervous streaming, but all the Cobras got loose and killed the crew. That's what happened. The Puma makes sense if you read the story. Well, we're gonna read the story. Perhaps he's just like, What's that movie with the boy and the tiger? It's a movie with a boy and a tiger and they're lost at sea. You have a drink with you? Yes, I have water. Your reading is good. You don't have to lie to me, but thank you. Life of Pi, yeah. Perhaps he's just recreating the life of Pi. A century and a half before its release. Or isn't the Life of Pi based on a book? When did the Life of Pi come out? Life of Pi. Or is it purely a movie? It is based on a book? Oh, the novel was only published in 2001, so it's new. It's new. Dan Trending, Dolores, you're doing fine for your first book in English? Shut up. Apple Gambit, thank you, Dolores. ESL reading session, nice. Shut up! Flavin, thank you for the $20. I didn't know you could read. What do you mean? It was the audiobook of Life of Pi. I want to listen to it. Aww. Dan Trending, Dolores, you're... Oh yeah, I heard that. I don't know why the list is so delayed. I'm not ESL! Shut up, Pippa, reading it lovely. Oh my god. Mick Claxing, $10, you could read stereo instructions and you'd have my full attention. Oh my god. Yeah, class, stop interrupting. We're on to chapter 1. Oh, anime occupant, I'm Big Pee. Good evening, Pippers. How goes it? It goes it alright. The best madness thing, gift Pee. Okay, let's go. The Island of Dr. Moreau. The story written by Edward Prendick. Chapter 1. In the Dinghy of the Lady Vane. I do not propose to add anything to what has already been written concerning the loss of the Lady Vane. As everyone knows, she collided with a derelict when 10 days out from Callao. The longboat, with 7 of the crew, was picked up 18 days after by the HM gunboat Myrtle, and the story of their terrible privations has become quite as well known as the far more horrible Medusa case. But I have to add to the published story of the Lady Vane another possibly as horrible and far stranger. It has hitherto been supposed that the 4 men who were in the Dinghy perished, but this is incorrect. I have the best of evidence for this assertion. I was one of the 4 men. Oh my goodness. But in the first place, I must state that there never were 4 men in the Dinghy. The number was 3. Constance, who was seen by the captain to jump into the gig, luckily for us and unluckily for himself, did not reach us. He came down out of the tangle of ropes under the stays of the smashed bowsprit. Some small rope caught his heel as he let go, and he hung for a moment head downward, and then fell and struck a block or spar floating in the water. We pulled towards him, but he never came up. Dinghy. 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 Ah! Dinghy. Pronounced Dinghy. Is this an Australian book? I don't know what H.G. Wells is. Dinghy. Shut up, I'm not dyslexic. From the Daily News, March 17th, 1887. It's British. Oh god. No wonder it's written so strange. I say luckily for us, he did not reach us, and I might almost say luckily for himself, for we had only a small beaker of water and some sodden ship biscuits with us. So sudden had been the alarm, so unprepared the ship for any disaster. We thought the people on the launch would be better provisioned, though it seems they were not. and we tried to hail them. They could not have heard us, and the next morning when the drizzle cleared, which was not until past midday, we could see nothing of them. We could not stand up to look about us because of the pitching of the boat. The two other men who had escaped so far with me were a man named Helmar, a passenger like myself, and a seaman whose name I do not know, a short, sturdy man with a stammer. We drifted famishing, and, after our water had come to an end, tormented by an intolerable thirst for 8 days altogether. After the second day, the sea subsided slowly to a glassy calm. It is quite impossible for the ordinary reader to imagine those 8 days. He has not, luckily for himself, anything in his memory to imagine with. After the first day, we said little to one another, and lay in our places in the boat and stared at the horizon, or watched, with eyes that grew larger and more haggard every day, the misery and weakness gaining upon our companions. The sun became pitiless. The water ended on the 4th day, and we were already thinking strange things and saying them with our eyes. But it was, I think, the 6th before Helmar gave voice to the thing we had all been thinking. I remember our voices were dry and thin, so that we bent towards one another and spared our words. I stood out against it with all my might, was rather for scuttling the boat and perishing together among the sharks that followed us. But when Helmar said that if his proposal was accepted, we should have a drink, the solar came round to him. I would not draw lots, however, and in the night the sailor whispered to Helmar again and again, and I sat in the bows with my clasp knife in my hand, though I doubt if I had the stuff in me to fight, and in the morning I agreed to Helmar's proposal. And we handed halfpence to find the odd man. The lot fell upon the sailor, but he was the strongest of us and would not abide by it, and attacked Helmar with his hands. They grappled together and almost stood up. I crawled along the boat to them, intending to help Helmar by grasping the sailor's leg, but the sailor stumbled with the swing of the boat, and the two fell upon the gunwale and rolled overboard together. They sank like stones. I remember laughing at that, and wondering why I laughed. A laugh caught me suddenly like a thing from without. I lay across one of the thwarts for I know not how long, thinking that if I had the strength, I would drink sea water and madden myself to die quickly. And even as I lay there, I saw, with no more interest than if it had been a picture, a sail come up towards me over the skyline. My mind must have been wandering, and yet I remember all that happened, quite distinctly. I remember how my head swayed with the seas and the horizon with the sail above it danced up and down. But I also remember as distinctly that I had a persuasion that I was dead, and that I thought what a jest it was that they should come too late by such a little to catch me in my body. For an endless period, as it seemed to me, I lay with my head on the thwart watching the schooner. She was a little ship, schooner rigged fore and aft, come up out of the sea. She kept tracking to and fro in a widening compass, for she was sailing dead into the wind. It never entered my head to attempt to attract attention, and I do not remember anything distinctly after the sight of her side until I found myself in a little cabin aft. There is a dim half-memory of being lifted up to the gangway, and of a big round countenance covered with freckles and surrounded with red hair staring at me over the bulwarks. I also had a disconnected impression of a dark face with extraordinary eyes, close to mine, but that I thought it was a nightmare, until I met it again. I fancy I recollect some stuff before being poured in between my teeth, and that is all. Teacher, can I go to the bathroom? No! No, you can't go to the bathroom. How dare you? How dare you? This reads so strangely. I have to admit, I've never read anything by H.G. Wells. It reads so strangely. It feels like it stops just short of a rhythmic sentence, but carries on for too long to be in the right flow. You know what I mean? He's British, it explains everything. Older style book? I don't think it's an older style that is so strange about it. The Time Machine is a trip? Similar to a Lovecraft story. I prefer Lovecraft's writing style. I need to turn the music down a bit for me, it's quite loud. There we go. Never? Time Machine and War of the Worlds are classics. No. I've heard some of the War of the Worlds radio play. But I've never actually read it. This is boring. Can we read Blood Meridian? No. No. I'm not ESL. Leave me alone. Now Pippa can read to me while I drive to work. I think the radio play is public domain. I think it is. Skylar, thank you for the $5. Hi Pippa, I'm listening to you while the dinner rush is coming in. Pippa, wow! I hope you have a good day. I hope you have a good day. I hope it's not too much of a rush. I don't think Dolores just got here. Rewind the book, please. I cannot, but you can skip back in the VOD. Steve Alding, $50. Buckle up, kids. All VTubers are GFE. Infowars.com. Thank you for $5. Read My Struggle by Kanye West. Who's on first? Thank you, Dolores. You're doing a great job, Pippa. Thank you. Thank you. I stumble once and then it makes me panic so much. It makes me panic so much I stumble more. Everyone's GFE. I'm not GFE. And I'm not BFE either. Mind struggle. Shut the fuck up. Who's on second? I'm singing for $5. Pippa, you should watch Lost Souls, one of the most insane documentaries I've seen about the production of Marlon Brando's Dr. Moreau movie from 1996. I've never watched that movie. I heard it was quite strange. I gotta say, it never looked particularly appealing to me. PFE. Pippa friend experience? Pippa's GFE male? What? Movie is weak? Kept I think Pandora, leave Pippa alone, she's trying hard. Even though she's out. Shut up. On to chapter 2. These chapters are really short. Oh. Demon Dolores, what is this about you wanting to be a femboy? Okay, we're not starting on that today. Chapter 2. The Man Who Was Going Nowhere. The cabin in which I found myself was small and rather untidy. A youngish man with flaxen hair, a bristly straw-colored mustache, and a dropping nether lip was sitting and holding my wrist. For a minute we stared at each other without speaking. He had watery gray eyes, oddly void of expression. Then just overhead came a sound like an iron bedstead being knocked about, and the low, angry growling of some large animal. At the same time the man spoke, he repeated his question. How do you feel now? I think I said I felt all right. I could not recollect how I had got there. You must have seen the question in my face, for my voice was inaccessible to me. You were picked up by... Oh wait, how should I do this voice? You were picked up in a boat, starving. The name on the boat was the Lady Vane, and there were spots of blood on the gunwale. Not a good voice. At the same time, my eye caught my hand, so thin that it looked like a dirty skin purse full of loose bones, and all the business of the boat came back to me. Have some of this, said he, and gave me a dose of some scarlet stuff, iced. It tasted like blood, and it made me feel stronger. You were in luck, said he, to get picked up by a ship with a medical man aboard. He spoke with a slobbering articulation, with the ghost of a lisp. What ship is this? I said, slowly, hoarse from my long silence. It's a little trader from Erica and Kalau. I never asked where she came from in the beginning. Out of the land of born fools, I guess. I'm a passenger myself from Erica. The silly ass who owns her. He's a captain too, named Davies. He's lost his certificate or something. You know the kind of man. Calls the thing the 𝐒𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐢𝐚𝐥 of all silly infernal names. Though when there's so much of a sea without any wind, she certainly acts accordingly. I'm a voice actress at this time, yeah, shut up. Then the noise overhead began again. A snarling growl and the voice of a human being together. Then another voice, telling some heaven-forsaken idiot to detest. Or to desist. You were nearly dead, said my interlocutor. This is the word.
Interlocutor.
Interlocutor. A person who takes part in dialogue or conversation. You are nearly dead, said my interlocutor. It was a very near thing indeed, but I've put some stuff into you now. Notice your arm sore? Injections. You've been insensible for nearly 30 hours. I thought slowly. I was distracted now by the yelping of a number of dogs. Am I eligible for solid food? I asked. Thanks to me, he said. Even now the mutton is boiling. Yes, I said with assurance. I could eat some mutton. What? Said he without a momentary hesitation. You know, I'm dying to hear of how you came to be alone in that boat. Damn that howling. I thought I detected a certain suspicion in his eyes. He suddenly left the cabin, and I heard him in violent controversy with someone, who seemed to me to talk gibberish in response to him. The matter sounded as though it ended in blows, but in that I thought my ears were mistaken. Then he shouted at the dogs, and returned to the cabin. Well, said he in the doorway, you were just beginning to tell me. I told him my name, Edward Prendick, and how I had taken to natural history as a relief from the dullness of my comfortable independence. He seemed interested in this. I've done some science myself. I did my biology at University College, getting out the ovary of the earthworm and the radula of the snail and all that. Lord, it's 10 years ago. But go on, tell me about the boat. He was evidently satisfied with the frankness of my story, which I told in concise sentences enough, for I felt horribly weak, and when it was finished he reverted at once to the topic of natural history and his own biological studies. He began to question me closely about Tottenham Court Road and Gower Street. Is 𝐏𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐼 still flourishing? What a shop that was! He had evidently been a very ordinary medical student and drifted incontinently to the topic of the music halls. Incontinently. Oh my goodness, I can't read tonight. He told me some anecdotes. Incontinently. I can't read. Left it all, he said. Tonight, shut up. 10 years ago. How jolly it all used to be. But I made a young ass of myself. Played myself out before I was 21. I dare say it's all different now. But I must look up that ass of a cook and see what he's done to your mutton. This book is above your level. Shut up. The growling overhead was renewed, so suddenly and with so much savage anger that it startled me. What's that? I called after him, but the door had closed. He came back again with the boiled mutton, and I was so excited by the appetizing smell of it that I forgot the noise of the beast that had troubled me. After a day of alternate sleep and feeding, I was so far recovered as to be able to get from my bunk to the scuttle, and see the green seas trying to keep pace with us. I judged the schooner was running before the wind. Montgomery, that was the name of the flaxen-haired man, came in again as I stood there, and I asked him for some clothes. He lent me some duck things of his own, for those I had worn in the boat had been thrown overboard. They were rather loose for me, for he was large and long in his limbs. He told me casually that the captain was 3 parts drunk in his own cabin. As I assumed the clothes, I began asking him some questions about the destination of the ship. He said the ship was bound to Hawaii, but that it had to land him first. Where? Said I. It's an island, where I live. So far as I know, it hasn't got a name. He stared at me with his nether lip dropping, and looked so willfully stupid of a sudden that it came into my head that he desired to avoid my question. I had the discretion to ask no more. And so ends chapter 2. These are so short. They're so short. I'm so brain dead. I need to stop getting anxious. Brandon and come big PP. Mercenary thing, Valores will catch the VOD later. Wait, we'll catch the VOD later work. Also, YouTube is censoring my super chats. Can't explain why. Or Dr. Moreau as a warning to the menace. There's the furries. What? What? Am I crazy or did that not make any sense? You're getting better. Thank you. I should have read it in advance. I should have read it ahead of time, and it would have been less intimidating. Furries inbound. I'm getting doors. When's Pipkin people gonna read us? Ready Player One. Oh no, I'm good. Concealing thing. Always Pippa is a Glaceon friend experience. What the hell? Zen Gunman. Thank you for the $5. I found a DVD of the 1996 adaptation of that when I was a kid. Teenage me was not prepared for the erotically gyrating cat girls. What? What? The what? Mildly OCD from Lord, learning English is one of the hardest languages for non-English speakers. Don't be too hard on yourself and take your time. Oh my god, shut up. This Laura, thank you for the $5 of your readings. Gonna sit back and relax. But love, buddy. Thank you. There's a cat girl. Fendroxing on BBB. 1 year of incredible entertaining streams. Thank you, Papa. Here's another great year. Thank you. Would you read old fairy tales? I wouldn't mind reading Island Night. Which ones though? Which old fairy tales do we read? Oh, here's something. Laura's been a while since last reading. I'm enjoying it. I'm glad. Alright. Chapter 3. The Strange Face. We left the cabin and found a man at the companion obstructing our way. He was standing on the ladder with his back to us, peering over the combing of the hatchway. He was, I could see, a misshapen man. Short, broad, and clumsy, with a crooked back, a hairy neck, and a head sunk between his shoulders. He was dressed in dark blue Serge? Sergey?
Surge.
And had peculiarly thick, coarse black hair. I heard the unseen dogs growling furiously, and forthwith he ducked back, coming into contact with the hand I put out to fend him off from myself. He turned with animal swiftness. In some indefinable way, the black face thus flashed upon me shocked me profoundly. It was a singularly deformed one, the facial part projected, forming something dimly suggestive of a muzzle, and the huge half-open mouth showed as big white teeth as I had ever seen in a human mouth. His eyes were bloodshot at the edges, with scarcely a rim of white round the hazel pupils. There was a curious glow of excitement in his face. "Confound you!" said Montgomery. "Why the devil don't you get out of the way?" The black-faced man started aside without a word. I went up on the companion, staring at him instinctively as I did so. Montgomery stayed at the foot for a moment. "You have no business here, you know," he said in a deliberate tone. "Your place is forward." The black-faced man cowered. "They won't have me forward." He spoke slowly, with a queer, hoarse quality in his voice. "Won't have you forward," said Montgomery in a menacing voice. "But I tell you to go." He was on the brink of saying something further, then looked up at me suddenly and followed me up the ladder. I had paused halfway through the hatchway, looking back, still astonished beyond measure at the grotesque ugliness of this black-faced creature. I had never beheld such a repulsive and extraordinary face before, and yet, if the contradiction is credible, I experienced at the same time an odd feeling that in some way I had already encountered exactly the features and gestures that now amazed me. Afterwards, it occurred to me that probably I had seen him as I was lifted aboard, and yet that scarcely satisfied my suspicion of a previous acquaintance. Yet how one could have set eyes on so singular a face and yet have forgotten the precise occasion passed my imagination. Montgomery's movements... Montgomery... He's a werewolf, chat, yes. Montgomery's movement to follow me released my attention, and I turned and looked about me at the half-flush deck of the little schooner. I was already half prepared by the sounds I had heard for what I saw. Certainly I never beheld a deck so dirty. It was littered with scraps of carrot, shreds of green stuff, and indescribable filth. Fastened by chains to the mainmast were a number of grisly staghounds, who now began leaping and barking at me, and by the mizzen a huge puma was cramped in a little iron cage far too small even to give it turning room. Farther under the starboard bulwark were some big hutches containing a number of rabbits, and a solitary llama was squeezed in a mere box of a cage forward. The dogs were muzzled by leather straps. The only human being on deck was a gaunt and silent sailor at the wheel. The patched and dirty spankers were tense before the wind, and up aloft the little ship seemed carrying every sail she had. The sky was clear, the sun midway down the western sky. Long waves, capped by the breeze with froth, were running with us. We went past the steersman to the taffrail, and saw the water come foaming under the stern and the bubbles go dancing and vanishing in her wake. I turned and surveyed the unsavory length of the ship. "Is this an ocean menagerie?" said I. "Looks like it," said Montgomery. "What are these beasts for? Merchandise? Curios? Does the captain think he is going to sell them somewhere in the South Seas?" "It looks like it, doesn't it?" said Montgomery, and turned towards the wake again. Suddenly we heard a yelp and a volley of furious blasphemy from the companion hatchway, and the deformed man with the black face came up hurriedly. He was immediately followed by a heavy red-haired man in a white cap. At the sight of the former, the staghounds, who had all tired of barking at me by this time, became furiously excited, howling and leaping against their chains. The black hesitated before them, and this gave the red-haired man time to come up with him and deliver a tremendous blow between the shoulder blades. The poor devil went down like a felled ox, and rolled in the dirt among the furiously excited dogs. It was lucky for him that they were muzzled. The red-haired man gave a yap of exultation, and stood staggering, and as it seemed to me, in serious danger of either going backwards down the companion hatchway or forwards upon his victim. Goodness, that was a lot. So soon as the second man had appeared, Montgomery had started forward. "Steady on here!" he cried in a tone of remonstrance. A couple of sailors appeared on the forecastle. The black-faced man, howling in a singular voice, rolled about under the feet of the dogs. No one attempted to help him. The brutes did their best to worry him, butting their muzzles at him. There was a quick dance of their lithe, grey-figured bodies over the clumsy, prostrate figure. The sailors forward shouted, as though it was admirable sport. Montgomery gave an angry exclamation, and went striding down the deck, and I followed him. The black-faced man scrambled up. Prostrate! Freudian slip! Oh, no! Prostrate! I don't know what that is. Prostrate. What is that?
Prostrate.
Oh, prostrate. Oh, like to prostrate yourself. Ah, like groveling, okay. Oh god, where was I? The black-faced man scrambled up and staggered forward, going and leaning over the bulwark by the main shrouds, where he remained, panting and glaring over his shoulder at the dogs. The red-haired man laughed a satisfied laugh. "Look here, Captain," said Montgomery, with his lisp a little accentuated, gripping the elbows of the red-haired man. "This won't do!" I stood behind Montgomery. The captain came half round and regarded him with the dull and solemn eyes of a drunken man. "What won't do?" he said, and added, after looking sleepily into Montgomery's face for a minute, "Blasted sawbones!" With a sudden movement, he shook his arms free, and after 2 ineffectual attempts, struck his freckled fists into his side pockets. "That man's a passenger," said Montgomery. "I'd advise you to keep your hands off of him." "Go to hell," said the captain loudly. He suddenly turned and staggered towards the side. "Do what I like on my own ship," he said. I think Montgomery might have left him then, seeing the brute was drunk, but he only turned a shade paler and followed the captain to the bulwarks. Look you here, Captain," he said. "That man of mine is not to be ill-treated. He has been hazed ever since he came aboard." For a minute, alcoholic fumes kept the captain speechless. "Blasted sawbones!" was all he considered necessary. I could see that Montgomery had one of those slow, Pertinacious. Oh my god. Holding firmly to an opinion. Okay. Pertinacious tempers that will warm day after day to a white heat, and never again cool to forgiveness. And I saw too that this quarrel had been some time growing. The man's drunk," said I, perhaps officiously. "You'll do no good." Montgomery gave an ugly twist to his dropping lip. "He's always drunk. Do you think that excuses his assaulting his passengers?" "Why, ship," began the captain, waving his hand unsteadily towards the cages, "was a clean ship. Look at it now!" It was certainly anything but clean. "Crew," continued the captain. "Clean, respectable crew. You agreed to take the beast. I wish I'd never set eyes on your infernal island. What the devil? One beast for an island like that? Then that man of yours understood he was a man. He's a lunatic, and he had no business aft. You think the whole damn ship belongs to you. Your sailors began to haze the poor devil as soon as he came aboard. That's just what he is. He's a devil, an ugly devil. My men can't stand him. I can't stand him. None of us can stand him, nor you either." Montgomery turned away. "You leave that man alone anyhow," he said, nodding his head as he spoke. But the captain meant to quarrel now. He raised his voice. "If he comes to this end of the ship again, I'll cut his insides out, I'll tell you. Cut out his blasted insides. Who are you to tell me what I'm to do? I tell you I'm the captain of this ship. Captain and owner. I'm the law here, I tell you. The law and the prophets. I bargained to take a man and his attendant to and from Africa and bring back some animals. I never bargained to carry a mad devil and a silly sawbones. Well, never mind what he called Montgomery. I saw the latter take a step forward and interposed. "He's drunk," said I. The captain began some abuse even fouler than the last. "Shut up!" I said, turning on him sharply, for I had seen danger in Montgomery's white face. With that, I brought the downpour on myself. Oh, Erica, not Africa. My bad. Erica. However, I was glad to avert what was uncommonly near a scuffle, even at the price of the captain's drunken ill will. I do not think I have ever heard quite so much vile language come in a continuous stream from any man's lips before. Though I have frequented eccentric company enough, I found some of it hard to endure. Though I'm a mild-tempered man, but certainly when I told the captain to shut up, I had forgotten that I was merely a bit of human flotsam, cut off from my resources with my fare unpaid, a mere casual dependent on the bounty or speculative enterprise of the ship. He reminded me of it with considerable vigor, but at any rate, I prevented a fight. Oh gosh. I took a sip of water, and it splashed back on my face. Ah! Ah! That's the end of chapter, what was that, 3? Chapter 3? Ah! Sorry, one moment. A free shower. That's right, a free shower. A free shower. Pippa needs a sippy cup. I don't need a sippy cup. You're trying to drink water. Trying to drink water. Goodness. She's just learning how to drink water. I'm learning how to read today. I'm learning how to drink water. A lot of firsts. Ah! And now my eyes burn. My eyes burn. How do teachers do it? Do I just need to read out loud more to become more proficient at reading out loud? That's gotta be it. Or is there some other secret that I just don't know? Other than, you know, reading ahead of time. Yes? Just practice? I've never really read out loud that much. Anytime I've done it, it's just for stream. Ringwraith singing on Big Baby, 9 months, Pipper. Wish we name our baby. Oh my god. I remember in school, I didn't like reading aloud when I was really young. I didn't like reading aloud, and so I'd always half-ass it. And then one day, I was really impatient, and I just wanted to get through it as quick as possible. And the teacher realized that I actually could read. The teacher realized that I actually could read. She thought I was just fucking brain dead, but I was just lazy. Big boss singing on Big PP. I heard giant surprise, yeah. More school stories. You can read, I know. That's a perceptive teacher. Mr. Yearling, Dolores, lots of practice. Doing great so far, thank you, thank you. I got noise anywhere, the $2, how you doing, Pip? Did I already answer that? I'm okay. My eyes are burning. Welcome lately on 134. Why is Justin Trudeau in my novel? Everything, Dolores, book club today. Rimworld War Crime stream next. Oh my gosh. I called, come on, Simon. Oh my god. Teacher would tell me to speak up a lot. I'm trying to remember if I ever had the... Oh god, stream dying. Literally meaning earned the $50. ESL Meme Society, have a really nice reading voice. Stream has turned a bad day around. Thanks, Pips. I'm glad. I'm glad. Well, not that you had a bad day, but I'm glad it's turning around. I'm sorry your day was bad, but thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. My day has been very slow. I woke up this morning and I kind of just laid in bed. And then I started watching Black Swan. And I have it paused. There's only 20 minutes left in the movie. There's only 20 minutes left in the movie. I thought I'd be able to finish it before stream, but I didn't. I just mistimed it. Was it good? I think it's good. Black Swan was... I mean, I haven't finished it, so I guess it's hard to give like a full review, but I'm very much enjoying it. It reminds me of Perfect Blue, and I was a big fan of that movie. And trending from $5. Oh, it just went past. Hold on, now I have to wait for it to pop up on the list. I remember watching the trailers for it when it first came out, and I thought it was a horror movie, but it's not a horror movie. The Western Perfect Blue, yeah, it's like Western Perfect Blue. Well, it was inspired by Perfect Blue. Black Swan is a bit pretentious. That's how I like my movies. Enchanting Riddler is doing great, Pippa. Reminds me of the good old days with Creep's work and Ten Bond. Ever listen to his readings? I don't think I did. Isaac? Baratz's wholesome gabagool art thing over the $10. Can I get a happy birthday? Thanks for the streams. They help me get through the workday. And for chat, you are not terrible. You have skills and utility. You are loved. Also, the Federal Reserve. Happy birthday, Isaac. Happy birthday, Isaac. Happy birthday, dear Isaac. Happy birthday to you. Perfect Blue is great though. It is. Wikipedia says it's horror. I don't think Black Swan is horror. Perhaps it has some horror elements, but I don't think it's horror. I think it's more just psychological, like somebody else in chat said. Just like Perfect Blue. I think there's elements of horror. Maybe a thriller? I don't think so. I don't think it's horror or a thriller. Psychological thriller? I don't think so. I don't think its purpose is to scare or... You know what? This is gonna become a whole tangent. No, I need to finish the movie first. Maybe what's a nice way to, or quick, concise way to put it? I can't think of one. I need more time to formulate my thoughts. Enrique Valencia, I think you're the 111? I'm late. Could you summarize what happened in the first 3 chapters? Man gets shipwrecked. Gets rescued. Is on boat with a lot of animals. And some suspicious characters. Alright. Is it seinen? No. It's what? Okay. Chapter 4. At the schooner's rail. That night land was sighted after sundown. See, this... Okay, before I really start, you know what? This is what I'm complaining about. That night land was sighted after sundown. This man, he words things so strangely. It's so strange. It just does not... Am I crazy? Am I crazy? It feels weird. It feels weird. I don't like how he writes. You know what? I'm thinking I'm not a fan of H.G. Wells. Oh my goodness. It's kind of clunky. It is. It's clunky. It's not rhythmic at all. I don't like it. It's worded odd. It is. Old and British. Disgusting. Yes, crazy, but yes, it's weird. Different times. Don't use that excuse. It's not like people write how they talk. Prose from that time can be considered awkwardly. About British writing. Old writing always... I don't think the issue is that it's old. I think the issue is that it's annoying. You know what? When was this written? The Island of Dr. Moreau. When did this come out? You fuckers, it's 1896. It's not that goddamn old. It's not that fucking old, you assholes. Jesus Christ, the way you were describing it, I was like, what the fuck? Like 1600s or something? Holy shit. No, it's not that old. How is that not that old? Late 1800s is not that old by literature standpoint. Holy shit, or standards. Oh my goodness. You know what else? You know what else is old? What's the exact year on this? You know what book I also really love? And is British and is old? Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. It reads wonderfully. It reads wonderfully. Granted, it's a kid's book. But it reads wonderfully. And it came out in 1865. 1865. I think Lewis Carroll has a much better rhythm to his writing. It's not old. It's not old. That's not to say this book is bad. It's just awkward to read out loud. Okay. Anyways. Let's start from the top. 4. At the schooner's rail. That night land was sighted after sundown, and the schooner hove to. Montgomery intimidated... Fuck! Fuck! Look... Ah! Okay. That night land was sighted after sundown, and the schooner hove to. Montgomery intimated that was his destination. It was too far to see any details. It seemed to me then simply a low-lying patch of dim blue in the uncertain blue-gray sea. An almost vertical streak of smoke went up from it into the sky. The captain was not on deck when it was sighted. After he had vented his wrath on me, he had staggered below, and I understand he went to sleep on the floor of his own cabin. The mate practically assumed the command. He was the gaunt, taciturn individual we had seen at the wheel. Taciturn, not taciturn. Apparently, he was in an evil temper with Montgomery. He took not the slightest notice of either of us. We dined with him in a sulky silence, after a few ineffectual efforts on my part to talk. It struck me, too, that the men regarded my companion and his animals in a singularly unfriendly manner. I found Montgomery very reticent about his purpose with these creatures, and about his destinations, and though I was sensible of a growing curiosity as to both, I did not press him. But how's your vocabulary? Not good. We remained talking on the quarter-deck until the sky was thick with stars. Except for an occasional sound in the yellow-lit forecastle and a movement of the animals now and then, the night was very still. The Puma lay crouched together, watching us with shining eyes, a black heap in the corner of its cage. Montgomery produced some cigars. He talked to me of London in a tone of half-painful reminiscence, asking all kinds of questions about changes that had taken place. He spoke like a man who had loved his life there, and had been suddenly and irrevocably cut off from it. I gossiped as well as I could of this and that. All the time the strangeness of him was shaping itself in my mind, and as I talked I peered at his odd, pallid face in the dim light of the binnacle lantern behind me. Then I looked out at the darkling sea, where in the dimness his little island was hidden. Forecastle is pronounced more like foxel? What?
Forecastle.
Forecastle. Forecastle. Thank you. Thank you. Omicron. 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 Forecastle. Forecastle. The forward part of a ship below the deck traditionally used as the crew's living quarters. Okay. That's one of those words that I've read a lot and I've never actually heard, I don't think. I just spell it like that, because they're annoying. This man, it seemed to me, had come out of immensity merely to save my life. Tomorrow, he would drop over the side and vanish again out of my existence. Even had it been under commonplace circumstances, it would have made me a trifle thoughtful. But in the first place was the singularity of an educated man living on this unknown little island, and coupled with that, the extraordinary nature of his luggage. I found myself repeating the captain's question. What did he want with the beasts? Why, too, had he pretended they were not his when I had remarked about them at first? Lots of ESL. Shut up. Then, again, in his personal attendant, there was a bizarre quality which had impressed me profoundly. These circumstances threw a haze of mystery around the man. They laid hold of my imagination and hampered my tongue. Towards midnight, our talk of London died away, and we stood side by side, leaning over the bulwarks and staring dreamily over the silent, starlit sea, each pursuing his own thoughts. It was the atmosphere for sentiment, and I began upon my gratitude. "If I may say it," said I, after a time, "you have saved my life." "Chance," he answered. "Just chance." "I prefer to make my thanks to the accessible agent." Thank no one. You had the need, and I had the knowledge, and I injected and fed you much as I might have collected as a specimen. I was bored and wanted something to do. If I'd been jaded that day, or hadn't liked your face, well, it's a curious question where you would have been now. This dampened my mood a little. At any rate, I began. It's a chance, I tell you, he interrupted. As everything is in a man's life, only the asses won't see it. Why am I here now, an outcast from civilization, instead of being a happy man enjoying all the pleasures of London, simply because 11 years ago I lost my head for 10 minutes on a foggy night? He stopped. Yes, said I. That's all. We relapsed into silence. Presently, he laughed. There's something in this starlight that loosens one's tongue. I'm an ass, and yet somehow I would like to tell you. Whatever you tell me, you may rely upon my keeping to myself, if that's it. He was on the point of beginning, and then shook his head, doubtfully. Don't, said I. It is all the same to me. After all, it is better to keep your secret. There's nothing gained but a little relief if I respect your confidence. If I don't, well... He grunted undecidedly. I felt I had him at a disadvantage. Had caught him in the mood of indiscretion, and to tell the truth, I was not curious to learn what might have driven a young medical student out of London. I have an imagination. I shrugged my shoulders and turned away. Over the taffrail leant a silent black figure, watching the stars. It was Montgomery's strange attendant. I looked over its shoulder quickly with my movement, then looked away again. It may seem a little thing to you, perhaps, but it came like a sudden blow to me. The only light near us was a lantern at the wheel. The creature's face was turned for one brief instant out of the dimness of the stern towards this illumination, and I saw that the eyes that glanced at me shone with a pale green light. I did not know then that a reddish luminosity, at least, is not uncommon in human eyes. The thing came to me as stock in humanity. That black figure with its eyes of fire struck down through all my adult thoughts and feelings, and for a moment the forgotten horrors of my childhood came back to my mind. Then the effect passed as it had come. An uncouth black figure of a man, a figure of no particular import, hung over the taffrail against the starlight. And I found Montgomery was speaking to me. I'm thinking of turning in then, said he. If you've had enough of this. I answered him incongruously. We went below, and he wished me good night at the door of my cabin. That night I had some very unpleasant dreams. The waning moon rose late. Its light struck a ghostly white beam across my cabin, and made an ominous shape on the planking by my bunk. Then the staghounds woke and began howling and baying, so that I dreamt fitfully and scarcely slept until the approach of dawn. Dun, 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 dun. So short, so short. On to chapter 5. That was a beautiful scene. Check mod chat. Okay, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Helmet boy, thank you for $5. Tracer, thank you, big pee. Piggy, thank you for $10. Pee, and good night. Thank you, thank you for $10. Sorry, wait. Sorry I'm late to stream, Pippa. I almost crashed, Pippa. The feds, Pippa, they're still looking. Who's on first? Thank you for $. I'll have to catch the rest in the morning. I'm going to make a tedious day a lot better. Have a good night. The book sounds so sus. It does. Yeah, best chapter so far. Definitely, definitely. I think that was a really solid chapter. I'm a blessing. It was very enjoyable, Pippa. Thank you. Pippa audiobook series win. Pay me. Audiobooks are a lot of work. Audiobooks are a lot of work. More reading in the future, please, if you guys like them. This is a good excuse for me to catch up on a massive backlog of books that I normally don't feel like reading anyways. Dinrailing, baby, don't read this. Oop, already said that. Which I think yo pips, spell ICUP now. Railroad crossing, watch out for cars. Can you spell that without any R's? YouTube murdering the stream? Sorry. Audiobooks is like voice acting. Think so? I have no idea. Really comfy, people reading law. Thank you, Minna. This just mirrors the screen distorting along with some loading. Yeah. It's not just you. You might have to refresh. You might have to refresh. Oh, evil $10 for the audiobook series. Oh my god. X-Maxing and BPP, would you read Railgun? Well, that's a copyrighted book, so. Rabbiting and $10, Pippa. No Pokemon VA confirmed. I would be honored to voice in Pokemon. But that'll never happen. Because I'm not a voice actor. And also, I'm pretty sure most voice actors would fucking hate me and not want to work with me. Recognizing $10, it's fine, just adds to the atmosphere. Lightning Fire, thank you for $10. Pippa, please read Of Mice and Men next live stream. That one's much longer than this. Background noise, thank you for $10. It's fine, just as I read that. Encrypted Wojak, thank you for 18. Thanks for reading, it helps me go through 3D modeling hell. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Do it, make your dreams come true. It's not my dream to be a Pokemon voice actor. We read Of Mice and Men in high school. It's pretty cool. I think the stream swallowed seawater. I think so. Most ENVAs are horrible people, to be honest. They kind of are, though. I don't know what it is about voice acting that attracts some of the shittiest people. What is it about voice acting that attracts the most narcissistic and deranged individuals? JPVAs are usually professional though? Well, that's an entirely different culture. You could voice act Cora's girlfriend. Oh my fucking god. Hollywood failures? You think so? If it's acting? Maybe. I don't know. Lee is a Pokemon VA and she's a VTuber. She seems lovely. That sounded sarcastic. I don't mean that sarcastically. I mean she like genuinely seems like a nice person. I watched her streams a bit back when she first debuted. And she's very charming. Everything I say sounds bad. I don't mean it to sound bad. It doesn't sound sarcastic? Okay, good. Overthink, leave me alone. Tony Stark, the Lord, speak normally, not me. Shakespeare for thee, complex words, yet bellied by dull run-ons. Belied, my bad. Belied by dull run-ons. I think Shakespeare's fucking miserable, and I don't trust anyone who says they like it. I don't trust anyone who says they like unabridged Shakespeare. If you're gonna read that shit, read it abridged. Background noise, do you ever end up changing your ISP? No, this is the only ISP that's available. Overthinking, yeah. Shakespeare's too wordy. A whole bunch of fucking made up words. It's a bullshit. Mad ventriloquisting on BPP. Whether ranting or tangenting, your voice is angelic. Aww. Long live the pipsness and consider John Fox's Book of Martyrs. Changing ISPs in America. Monopoly hate. Monopoly hate. Garbage game. Garbage system. Shakespeare wasn't meant to be read. Yeah, well, it doesn't feel nice to listen to it either, so. Where are we at, brothers? Okay, chapter 5! The man who had nowhere to go. In the early morning, it was the second morning after my recovery, and I believe the fourth after I was picked up. I awoke through an avenue of tumultuous dreams. Dreams of guns and howling mobs, and became sensible of a horse shouting above me. I rubbed my eyes and lay listening to the noise, doubtful for a little while of my whereabouts. Then came a sudden pattering of bare feet, the sound of heavy objects being thrown about, a violent creaking and the rattling of chains. I heard the swish of the water as the ship was suddenly brought round, and a foamy yellow-green wave flew across the little round window and left it streaming. I jumped into my clothes and went on deck. As I came up the ladder, I saw against the flushed sky, for the sun was just rising, the broad back and red hair of the captain, and over his shoulder the Puma spinning from a tackle rigged on the mizzen spanker boom. The poor brute seemed horribly scared and crouched in the bottom of its little cage. "Overboard with 'em!" bawled the captain. "Overboard with 'em! We'll have a clean ship soon of this whole billet of 'em!" He stood in my way, so that I had perforce to tap his shoulder to come on deck. He came round with a start, and staggered back a few paces to stare at me. It needed no expert eye to tell that the man was still drunk. "Hello," said he stupidly, and then with a light coming into his eyes, Why, it's Mr. Prendick," said I. "Prendick be damned," said he. "Shut up, that's your name. Mr. Shut up." It was no good answering the brute, but I certainly did not expect his next move. He held out his hand to the gangway by which Montgomery stood talking to a massive gray-haired man in dirty blue flannels, who had apparently just come aboard. "That way, Mr. Blasted Shut Up! That way!" roared the captain. Montgomery and his companion turned as he spoke. "What do you mean?" I said. "That way, Mr. Blasted! Shut up! That's what I meant! Overboard, Mr. Shut Up! And sharp! We're cleaning the ship out! Cleaning the whole blessed ship out! And overboard you go!" I stared at him dumbfounded. Then it occurred to me that it was exactly the thing I wanted. The lost prospect of a journey as a sole passenger with this quarrelsome sot was not one to mourn over. I turned towards Montgomery. "Can't have you," said Montgomery's companion concisely. "You can't have me," said I, aghast. He had the squarest and most resolute face I ever set eyes upon. "Look here," I began, turning to the captain. "Overboard," said the captain. "This ship ain't for beasts and cannibals and worse than beasts anymore. Overboard you go, Mr. Shut Up. If they can't have you, you goes overboard. But anyhow you go, with your friends. I've done with this blessed island forevermore. And then, I've had enough of it." "But Montgomery," I appealed. He distorted his lower lip and nodded his head hopelessly at the gray-haired man beside him to indicate his powerlessness to help me. "I'll see to you presently," said the captain. Then began a curious three-cornered altercation. Alternately, I appealed to one and another of the three men, first to the gray-haired man to let me a hand, and then to the drunken captain to keep me aboard. I even bawled entreaties to the sailors. Montgomery said never a word, only shook his head. "You're going overboard, I tell you," was the captain's refrain. "You're going overboard, I tell you," was the captain's refrain. "Law be damned, I'm the king here." At last, I must confess, my voice suddenly broke in the middle of a vigorous threat. I felt a gust of hysterical petulance and went aft and stared dismally at nothing. Meanwhile, the sailors progressed rapidly with the task of unshipping the packages and caged animals. A large launch with 2 standing lugs lay under the lee of the schooner, and into this the strange assortment of goods were swung. I did not then see the hands from the island that were receiving the packages, for the whole of the launch was hidden from me by the side of the schooner. Neither Montgomery nor his companion took the slightest notice of me, but busied themselves in assisting and directing the 4 or 5 sailors who were unloading the goods. The captain went forward, interfering rather than assisting. Interfering rather than assisting. I was alternately despairful and desperate. Once or twice, as I stood waiting there for things to accomplish themselves, I could not resist an impulse to laugh at my miserable quandary. I felt all the wretcheder for the lack of a breakfast, hunger, and a lack of blood corpuscles to take all the manhood from a man. I perceived pretty clearly that I had not the stamina either to resist what the captain chose to do to expel me, or to force myself upon Montgomery and his companion. So I waited passively upon fate, and the work of transferring Montgomery's possessions to the launch went on as if I did not exist. Presently that work was finished, and then came a struggle. I was hauled, resisting weakly enough, to the gangway, even though I noticed the oddness of the brown faces of the men who were Montgomery in the launch. But the launch was now fully laden, was shoved off hastily. A broadening gap of green water appeared under me, and I pushed back with all my strength to avoid falling headlong. The hands in the launch shouted derisively, and I heard Montgomery curse at them, and then the captain, the mate, and one of the seamen helping him ran me aft towards the stern. The dinghy of the Lady Vane had been towing behind. It was half full of water, had no oars, and was quite unviticuled. Oh my god, there's not even... What?
Victual.
Victual. Victual, food, supplies, provisions. What? Unvittle. What the fuck? Unvittled. Huh. No idea. That's a weird word. It's the way it's written. It looks like unvicticuled. But it's victualed. A dumb word. I don't like it. Eat your victuals. I refused to go aboard her, and flung myself full length on the deck. In the end, they swung me onto her by rope, for they had no stern ladder, and then they cut me adrift. I drifted slowly from the schooner. In a kind of stupor, I watched all hands take to the rigging, and slowly but surely she came round to the wind. The sails fluttered, and then bellied out as the wind came into them. I stared at her weather-beaten side heeling steeply towards me, and then she passed out of my range of view. I did not turn my head to follow her. At first I could scarcely believe what had happened. I crouched in the bottom of the dinghy, stunned and staring blankly at the vacant, oily sea. Then I realized that I was in that little hell of mine again. Now half swamped, and looking back over the gunwale, I saw the schooner standing away from me, with the red-haired captain mocking at me over the taffrail, and turning towards the island, saw the launch growing smaller as she approached the beach. Abruptly, the cruelty of this desertion became clear to me. I had no means of reaching the land unless I should chance to drift there. I was still weak, you must remember, from my exposure in the boat. I was empty and very faint, or I should have had more heart. But as it was, I suddenly began to sob and weep, as I had never done since I was a little child. The tears ran down my face. In a passion of despair, I struck with my fist at the water in the bottom of the boat, and kicked savagely at the gunwale. I prayed aloud for God to let me die. And so ends that chapter. And my cup of water. But don't worry, I prepared a second one. Culture thing, $10. First-person narrative prose and multi-perspective scene jumping makes me want to drive my car the wrong way on the freeway and let Satan take the wheel. Thank God for Virginia Woolf and Hemingway. What the fuck? Next magazine for $5. What will we do with a drunken sailor? What will we do with a drunken sailor? What will we do with a Gunwale is pronounced gunnel? Oh my god, these British words and their impossible pronunciations.
Gunnel.
Gunnel. The upper edge of the side or bulwark of a vessel. English is ESL. It is. Gunwale is pronounced gunnel. Forecastle is pronounced forecastle. What is this? What is this? English is so interesting. No, it is not. You did it. You're reading. I'm reading. Yay. I'm gonna go use the restroom. I drank a lot of water. Look at that! Restroom. Okay, be right back. 1 second. Mute. meow meow. Oh my god, not the... Oh no. Oh my god. Oh god. You guys are so cursed. Not the water spam. Not the water spam. This isn't Hollow Live. You don't spam the water. The water supers. Oh my goodness. Quiet BDM. I'm sorry. I should have turned it up before I left. Oh my god, it's absolutely flooded. They think of the front door is ghost in the baby. Did you wash your hands? Yes, I washed my hands. I said thanks for the water spam. Yeah, thanks for the water spam. Oh my god. Honorary Hollow. I think I'm the farthest thing from that, actually. That's the thing with the $10. Did you wash your hands? Yes! I washed my hands! Stop spamming! Oh my goodness. Coco's tradition lives on. Indeed it does. Alright. I don't think I like that chapter. I don't think I like that chapter at all, really. I don't know. Chapter 5. Maybe because chapter 4 was really good. I feel like chapter 5 kind of just... Everything happened so very suddenly, and perhaps that's to like add to the effect of what the narrator is feeling. But I don't know. Perhaps it's good that I feel that way. But I'm still shook by the word pronunciation. Gunnel? Resignating with Lord's Pippa's hands to make sure. Stop it! Wish they'd throw the narrator overboard. Well, that's what they just did. You can't say furry. What? Story beats, good. Flow, kind of mid. Flow is terrible. And I have to sneeze, but I'm not sneezing, which is annoying. We watch the movie instead. No. Well, I guess you're supposed to feel uncomfortable since the narrator is. It's called empathy. True. True. That's why I'm giving it a pass. Even though I feel like it could have been done better. This is my opinion. I'm annoying. Chapter 6. The evil-looking boatman. But the islanders, seeing that I was really adrift, took pity on me. I drifted very slowly to the eastward, approaching the island slantingly, and presently I saw, with hysterical relief, the launch come round and return towards me. She was heavy-laden, and I could make out, as she drew near, Montgomery's white-haired, broad-shouldered companion sitting cramped up with the dogs and several packing cases in the stern sheets. This individual stared fixedly at me without moving or speaking. The black-faced cripple was glaring at me as fixedly in the bows near the Puma. There were 3 other men, besides. 3 strange, brutish-looking fellows at whom the staghounds were snarling savagely. Montgomery, who was steering, brought the boat by me, and rising, caught and fastened my painter to the tiller to tow me, for there was no room aboard. Oh. I had recovered from my hysterical phase by this time and answered his hail, as he approached, bravely enough. I told him the dinghy was nearly swamped, and he reached me a piggin. I was jerked back as the rope tightened between the boats. For some time I was busy bailing. It was not until I had got the water under, for the water in the dinghy had been shipped, the boat was perfectly sound, that I had leisure to look at the people in the launch again. The white-haired man, I found, was still regarding me, steadfastly, but with an expression, as I now fancied, of some perplexity. When my eyes met his, he looked down at the staghound that sat between his knees. He was a powerfully built man, as I have said, with a fine forehead and rather heavy features, but his eyes had that odd drooping of the skin above the lids which often comes with advancing years, and the fall of his heavy mouth at the corners gave him an expression of pugnacious resolution. He talked to Montgomery in a tone too low for me to hear. Forehead, yeah. From him, my eyes traveled to his 3 men, and a strange crew they were. I saw only their faces, yet there was something in their faces, I knew not what, that gave me a queer spasm of disgust. I looked steadily at them, and the impression did not pass, though I failed to see what had occasioned it. They seemed to me then to be brown men, but their limbs were oddly swathed in some thin, dirty white stuff down even to their fingers and feet. I have never seen men so wrapped up before, and women so only in the East. They wore turbans, too, and thereunder peered out their elfin faces at me, faces with protruding lower jaws and bright eyes. They had lank black hair, almost like horsehair, and seemed as they sat to exceed in stature any race of men I have seen. The white-haired man, who I knew was a good 6 feet in height, sat a head below any one of the three. I found afterwards that really none of them were taller than myself, but their bodies were abnormally long, and the thigh part of the leg short and curiously twisted. At any rate, they were an amazingly ugly gang. And over the heads of them, under the forward lung, peered the black face of the man, whose eyes were luminous in the dark. As I stared at them, they met my gaze, and then first one and then another turned away from my direct stare, and looked at me in an odd, furtive manner. It occurred to me that I was perhaps annoying them, and I turned my attention to the island we were approaching. Sniffle. Sniffle in the water. 1 second. Blackface, no! Nom 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 nom. Just like me, they can't maintain eye contact. It was low and covered with thick vegetation, chiefly a kind of palm that was new to me. From one point, a thin white thread of vapor rose slantingly to an immense height, and then frayed out like a down feather. We were now within the embrace of a broad bay flanked on either hand by a low promontory. The beach was of dull grey sand and sloped steeply up to a ridge, perhaps 60 or 70 feet above the sea level, and irregularly set with the trees and undergrowth. Halfway up was a square enclosure of some greyish stone, which I found subsequently was built partly of coral and partly of pumiceous lava. 2 thatched roofs peeped from within this enclosure. A man stood awaiting us at the water's edge. I fancied while we were still far off that I saw some other and very grotesque-looking creatures scuttle into the bushes upon the slope, but I saw nothing of these as we drew nearer. This man was of a moderate size, and with a black face. He had a large, almost lipless mouth, extraordinary lank arms, long thin feet, and bow legs, and stood with his heavy face thrust forward staring at us. He was dressed like Montgomery and his white-haired companion, in jacket and trousers of blue serge? How do we pronounce this? Serge? As we came still nearer, this individual began to run to and fro on the beach, making the most grotesque movements. I need subtitles. Shut up. At a word of command from Montgomery, the 4 men in the launch sprang up, and with singularly awkward gestures struck the lugs. Montgomery steered us round and into a narrow little dock excavated in the beach. Then the man on the beach hastened towards us. This dock, as I call it, was really a mere ditch just long enough at this phase of the tide to take the longboat. I heard the bows ground in the sand, staved the dinghy off the rudder of the big boat with my piggin, and freeing the painter, landed. The 3 muffled men, with the clumsiest movements, scrambled out upon the sand, and forthwith set to landing the cargo. Assisted by the man on the beach, I was struck especially by the curious movements of the legs of the 3 swathed and bandaged boatmen. Not stiff they were, but distorted in some odd way, almost as if they were jointed in the wrong place. The dogs were still snarling, and strained at their chains after these men. As the white-haired man landed with them, the 3 big fellows spoke to one another in odd guttural tones, and the man who had waited for us on the beach began chattering to them excitedly, a foreign language, as I fancied, as they laid hands on some bales piled near the stern. Somewhere I had heard such a voice before, and I could not think where. The white-haired man stood, holding in a tumult of 6 dogs, and bawling orders over their din. Montgomery, having unshipped the rudder, landed likewise, and all set to work at unloading. I was too faint, what with my long fast and the sun beating down on my bare head, to offer any assistance. The language is dog. Shut up. Presently, the white-haired man seemed to recollect my presence and came up to me. "You look," said he, "as though you had scarcely breakfasted." His little eyes were a brilliant black under his heavy brows. "I must apologize for that. Now you are our guest, we must make you comfortable. Though you are uninvited, you know." He looked keenly into my face. "Montgomery says you're an educated man, Mr. Prendick. Says you know something of science. May I ask what signifies?" I told him I had spent some years at the Royal College of Science, and had done some researches in biology under Huxley. He raised his eyebrows slightly at that. "That alters the case a little, Mr. Prendick," he said, with a trifle more respect in his manner. "As it happens, we are biologists here. This is a biological station, of sort." His eyes rested on the men in white who were busily hauling the Puma on rollers towards the walled yard. "I and Montgomery, at least," he added. Then, "When you will be able to get away, I can't say. We're off the track to anywhere. We see a ship once in a 12-month or so." He left me abruptly and went up the beach past this group, and I think entered the enclosure. The other 2 men were with Montgomery, erecting a pile of smaller packages on a lower-wheeled truck. The llama was still on the launch with the rabbit hutches. The staghounds were still lashed to the thwarts. The pile of things completed, all 3 men laid the hold of the truck, and began shoving the ton weight or so upon it after the Puma. Presently Montgomery left them, and coming back to me, held out his hand. "I'm glad," said he, "for my own part, that Captain was a silly ass. He'd have made things lively for you." "It was you," said I, "that saved me again." "That depends. You'll find this island an infernally rum place, I promise you. I'd watch my goings carefully if I were you." He hesitated, and seemed to alter his mind about what was on his lips. "I wish you'd help me with these rabbits," he said. His procedure with the rabbits was singular. I waded in with him, and helped him lug one of the hutches ashore. No sooner was that done than he opened the door of it, and tilting the thing on one end, turned its living contents out onto the ground. They fell in a struggling heap, one on top of the other. He clapped his hands, and forthwith they went off with that hopping run of theirs, 15 or 20 of them, I should think, up the beach. "Increase and multiply, my friends," said Montgomery. "Replenish the island. Hitherto we've had a certain lack of meat here." As I watched them disappearing, the white-haired man returned with a brandy flask and some biscuits. "Something to go on with, Prendick," said he, in a far more familiar tone than before. I made no ado, but set to work on the biscuits at once, while the white-haired man helped Montgomery to release about a score more of the rabbits. 3 big hutches, however, went up to the houses with the Puma. The brandy I did not touch, for I have been an abstainer from my birth. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. So ends chapter 6. And so we're on to chapter 7. It seems like it would be more efficient to keep the rabbits enclosed and breed them, rather than let them run amok on the island. Rabbit starvation incoming. But perhaps there's nothing on the island to else eat the rabbits? His voice is actually calming. I'm falling asleep. Oh my god. Then you don't need to feed them. I guess. Rabbits don't need to eat a lot. Au contraire! Loving this. Can you release a video of you just reading? maybe someday. Codename Michael, thank you for $5. Hey Pippa, your voice is wonderful. If you could only pick one book, which book? Pick one book for what? One book for what? It depends on what I'm picking the book for. The book. I need more, Pippa. The man said pick book. To eat. Pick one. Pick one for what? To read? A book that I've never read before to read? I don't know. Pick a book. Is it a book that I haven't read before to read? One book to read for the rest of time, and I can't read any other books. What did I... Book pick! You had one job! One book to rule them all! I'm trying to think. If I only had one book that I could read, I'd have to pick something long. So that if I go back to read it again, I don't have it entirely remembered. You know? I'd have to pick something really long. But I haven't read any, like, terribly long books, so it's hard to say. Encyclopedia Dramatica. Oh my god, that's not a book. I want to read The Count of Monte Cristo. But that's really long. And that's one reason. Yeah, either The Count of Monte Cristo or the Bible, yeah. But that's very long. That's very long. So I haven't read it. So then to say that I'd want that to be the only book, well, if I don't enjoy the book, then it doesn't matter if it's long. One book I've had on my to-read list that I just haven't picked up yet is The Skeptical Chemist by Robert Boyle. A Soul Gaming name, Dolores the Bibble. Oh my god. But that one I know is gonna be a bit more of a chore to read, and that's why I haven't even bought it yet. Title sounds interesting. It's not anything fantastical. It's just it's how do I say? Non-fiction, given its time. What's it about? It's a very outdated chemistry book from back when alchemy was revered. This is a brilliant idea. Can I get a Pippa audiobook download? Oh my god. My favorite book in high school was The Great Gatsby. Am I crazy, or does it feel like everybody likes The Great Gatsby now? But when I remember when I was younger, nobody liked it. Nobody liked it when I was younger. And now all of a sudden it's like the movie came out and everybody's a fan. Fluffy Squid thing for the $1. It's just like, what's his name from the movie? If I had to pick one book to rule them all, I'd pick Jurassic Park. Wizard of Oz. Milkman Delores Watership Down, Rabbit Book for Rabbit Streamer. I don't think that's in the public domain, is it? I was really fond of Watership Down when I read it. I didn't expect the whole yeah, no, 1972. It's definitely not in the public domain. I remember when I read it, I didn't expect it to actually so fully be about rabbits. I had expected it to like cut to like human POV, because that's what like I kept experiencing. Because like I'd ask for like recommendations, like I want to read books about animals, and I'd be handed stuff like flower or fucking Flowers for Algernon and oh god, Call of the Wild. Not Call of the... What's it called? Wild? White Fang. Those kinds of books. It's like, this... It's not what I meant! So then I read Watership Down and Plague Dogs, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Animal books, yeah. Secret of Nim. I never read Secret of Nim. Not fully, anyways. Still gaming thing. The Lost World, Jurassic Park is a good book too. Radical Edward didn't come big tea. My mom tricked me into reading Watership Down as a kid by saying it had a bunch of fight scenes. Well, she wasn't wrong. Although I think the cartoons have overplayed how much violence is in the books. I feel like in Watership Down, the violence is more haunting and a fear of what's to come. Whereas in the cartoons and stuff, it's more explicit. I didn't know The Secret of Nim was a book. Yep. Apparently that's pretty different too. The movie scared me. It's like a real war and they live in fear, yeah. But, take a sip of water. Lovecraft has many animals too. I thought he only had, the cat. Did you guys know Beatrix Potter used to have little animals run around her house? She used to have, like, mice and rabbits and stuff that just hopped around her house. And for the mice, she'd take a napkin. Or handkerchief, whatever it was. She'd take a handkerchief in her hand and she'd grab the mice to handle them. So they couldn't bite her. Such a strange woman. Sounds like Pippa's home, oh my god. That's called an infestation. No, it's called Beatrix Potter's very cottagecore living situation. And smother them? No! She loved animals. Emperor Creating Thing, did you ever read Redwall? It was a fave growing up. I have not read Red... Ah! No, I have not. Next Angel Singer with the $20. Have you ever read Hurricane of Mars by Robert A. Heinlein? No, I have not. The premise is that a girl raised on Mars goes on vacation to Venus, which is like Space Vegas, and gets swept up in a plot to blackmail her uncle, who was a senator. I have not. I don't read a lot of sci-fi. Good damn like coding for Dolores. I left the question open-ended on purpose. I had wanted to see your response to it. The reason why most people only recently is because of the movie. I think that's true. I think that's true. I think the reason... Because I remember, especially like the ending of The Great Gatsby pissed so many people off. But now, oh, it's so good. Oh my god, Great Gatsby. What's the fucking whole aesthetic based around it? Like Centennial Core or whatever? I don't know. It's dumb. Dumb. People are dumb. One name like a Lincoln Noise. People are driven by convents, much to the sacrifice of their freedom. Most people don't read anymore, and it's sad. Because reading's a pain in the ass, and using a phone is much more addicting. Listen, bro, as somebody who enjoys reading, it's hard not to get distracted by your phone. It goes off all the time. There's so many things happening. Man. Rubber Soldier thing, $5. If you want a weird yet interesting sci-fi, read, check out... No, I'm not interested in sci-fi. I don't like sci-fi. I mean, I don't hate it, but I'm not very into it either. This one inspired Stalker and Metro 2033 games, which are solid. I'm really not a sci-fi person. I'm also not much of a fantasy person anymore either. I tried reading some fantasy thinking, oh yeah, baby, this'll take me back. Not into it. It's not into it. I like reading surrealism. That's my favorite genre. I'm very basic. I enjoy surrealism. I enjoy absurdity. Existentialism. Themes of philosophy. It was only in the 𝐒𝐻𝐿𝐻 fanfic. No! Romance? Jane Austen? No, I'm not much. I like romance comics. But romance books are always so... I don't know, I tried reading some thinking that they'd be as addicting as romance comics, and they're just not. Everybody in romance books is so unlikable. And the story is entirely just nonsense. And I know that, like, it sounds annoying or pretentious, but like it's just nonsense, man. It's just nonsense. Romance stories are just nonsense, and shit just happens just to fucking progress the relationships of the characters. And that wouldn't be as big of an issue if there wasn't like the feigning of like, oh yes, we do have a story. There's no story here. There's no story. Shut the fuck up. Jane Austen is fun. I don't like Jane Austen. She's not who I was talking about with this, but forced drama for the plot, pretty much. That's how I feel. Codename Lyco, thank you, Dolores. Now phone reading is fine. I mean, they don't read. Phone reading's stupid. It hurts my eyeballs. I prefer having a physical book. But then nothing's as convenient as reading on the phone. Do you like grimdark? That sounds like a fan fiction term. I don't think grimdark actually refers to anything, does it? A subgenre of speculative fiction with a tone, style, or setting that is particularly dystopian, immoral, or violent. I don't like getting so deep into subgenres like this. Like, I see other subgenres here listed, like isekai, Lovecraftian horror, steampunk. I'm not. Oh god. According to Roberts, grimdark is an anti-Tolkien approach to fantasy writing. Well, that's how I can tell it's gonna be annoying. No thanks. No thanks. I don't read stuff for a genre, I read stuff because it looks good. Or it sounds good. That's an annoying quote though. That's already putting me off. What are some examples of this? Give me some... What are some grimdark books I might have heard of? T Greeny thing. Fandler's biggest issue with romance is they have to make the characters have negative IQ to make drama that has no purpose. True. Sky Shark thing. Fandler's only literature I read is military history and Zane Grey westerns. I have an actual... I actually have a copy of Betty Zane printed in 1903. That's cool. That's cool. I love it when you go to thrift stores and you find books that are like genuinely aged. Grim dark recommendations. Berserk is grim dark. Oh, Game of Thrones, Black Sun Rising, The Poppy War, God Blind, Best Served Cold, Beyond Redemption, The Grey Bastards, Assassin's Apprentice. I heard that was terrible. I heard Assassin's Apprentice is awful. Apple Gambit thinking Dolores Warhammer 40k is grimdark. I don't know. I don't enjoy suffering for the sake of suffering. I will say that. Anyways. On to Chapter 7. The Locked Door. The reader will perhaps understand that at first everything was so strange about me, and my position was the outcome of such unexpected adventures, that I had no discernment of the relative strangeness of this or that thing. I followed the llama up the beach, and was overtaken by Montgomery, who asked me not to enter the stone enclosure. I noticed then that the puma in its cage and the pile of packages had been placed outside the entrance to this quadrangle. I turned and saw that the launch had now been unloaded, run out again, and was being beached, and the white-haired man was walking towards us. He addressed Montgomery. And now comes the problem of this uninvited guest. What are we to do with him? He knows something of science, said Montgomery. I'm itching to get to work again with this new stuff, said the white-haired man, nodding towards the enclosure. His eyes grew brighter. I dare say you are, said Montgomery in anything but a cordial tone. We can't send him over there, and we can't spare the time to build him a new shanty, and we certainly can't take him into our confidence just yet. I'm in your hands, said I. I had no idea of what he meant by over there. I need to make the voices more distinct. I've been thinking of the same things, Montgomery answered. There's my room with the outer door. That's it, said the elder man, promptly looking at Montgomery, and all three of us went towards the enclosure. I'm sorry to make a mystery, Mr. Prendick, but you'll remember you're uninvited. Our little establishment here contains a secret or so. It's a kind of Bluebeard's chamber, in fact. Nothing very dreadful, really, to a sane man. But just now, as we don't know you... Decidedly, said I should be a fool to take offense at any want of confidence. He twisted his heavy mouth into a faint smile. He was one of those saturnine people who smile with the corners of the mouth down, and bowed his acknowledgment of my complaisance. The main entrance to the enclosure was passed. It was a heavy wooden gate, framed in iron and locked, with the cargo of the launch piled outside it, and at the corner we came to a small doorway I had not previously observed. The white-haired man produced a bundle of keys from the pocket of his greasy blue jacket, opened this door, and entered. His keys and the elaborate locking up of the place even while it was still under his eye struck me as peculiar. I followed him, and found myself in a small apartment plainly but not comfortably furnished, and with its inner door, which was slightly ajar, opening into a paved courtyard. This inner door Montgomery at once closed. A hammock was slung across the darker corner of the room, and a small unglazed window defended by an iron bar looked out towards the sea. This the white-haired man told me was to be my apartment, and the inner door, which, for fear of accidents, he said, he would lock on the other side, was my limit inward. He called my attention to a convenient deck chair before the window, and to an array of old books, chiefly, I found, surgical works and editions of the Latin and Greek classics, languages I cannot read with any comfort, on a shelf near the hammock. He left the room by the outer door as if to avoid opening the inner one again. Take a sip. We usually have our meals in here, said Montgomery, and then, as if in doubt, went out after the other. Moreau! I heard him call, and for the moment I do not think I noticed. Then, as I handled the books on the shelf, it came up in consciousness. Where had I heard the name of Moreau before? I sat down before the window, took out the biscuits that still remained to me, and ate them with an excellent appetite. Moreau. Through the window I saw one of those unaccountable men in white, lugging a packing case along the beach. Presently the window frame hid him. Then I heard a key inserted and turned in the lock behind me. After a little while I heard through the locked door the noise of the staghounds that had now been brought up from the beach. They were not barking, but sniffing and growling in a curious fashion. I could hear the rapid patter of their feet, and Montgomery's voice soothing them. I was very much impressed by the elaborate secrecy of these two men regarding the contents of the place, and for some time I was thinking of that and the unaccountable familiarity of the name Moreau. But so odd is the human memory that I could not then recall that well-known name in its proper connection. From that my thoughts went to the indefinable queerness of the deformed man on the beach. I never saw such a gait, such odd motions as he pulled at the box. I recalled that none of these men had spoken to me, though most of them I had found looking at me at one time or another in in a peculiarly furtive manner, quite unlike the frank stare of your unsophisticated savage. Indeed, they had all seemed remarkably taciturn, and when they did speak, endowed with a very uncanny voices. What was wrong with them? Then I recalled the eyes of Montgomery's ungainly attendant. Just as I was thinking of him, he came in. He was now dressed in white, and carried a little tray with some coffee and boiled vegetables thereon. I could hardly repress a shuddering recoil as he came, bending amiably, and placed the tray before me on the table. Then astonishment paralyzed me. Under his stringy black locks I saw his ear. It jumped upon me suddenly close to my face. The man had pointed ears, covered with a fine brown fur. "Your breakfast, sir," he said. I stared at his face without attempting to answer him. He turned and went towards the door, regarding me oddly over his shoulder. I followed him out with my eyes, and as I did so, by some odd trick of unconscious cerebration, there came surging into my head the phrase, "The Moreau Hollows, was it? The Moreau? Ah! It sent my memory back 10 years! The Moreau horrors!" The phrase drifted loose in my mind for a moment, and then I saw it in red lettering on a little buff-colored pamphlet to read, which made one shiver and creep. Then I remembered distinctly all about it. That long-forgotten pamphlet came back with startlingly vividness in my mind. I had been a mere lad then, and Moreau was, I suppose, about 50? A prominent and masterful physiologist, well known in scientific circles for his extraordinary imagination and his brutal directness in discussion. Was this the same Moreau? He had published some very astonishing facts in connection with the transfusion of blood, and in addition was known to be doing valuable work on morbid growths. Then suddenly his career was closed. He had to leave England. A journalist obtained access to his laboratory in the capacity of laboratory assistant, with the deliberate intention of making sensational exposures, and by the help of a shocking accident, if it was an accident, his gruesome pamphlet became notorious. On the day of its publication, a wretched dog, flayed and otherwise mutilated, escaped from Moreau's house. It was in the silly season, and a prominent editor, a cousin of the temporary laboratory assistant, appealed to the conscience of the nation. It was not the first time that conscience had turned against the methods of research. The doctor was simply held out of the country. It may be that he deserved to be, but I still think that tepid sort of his fellow investigators and his desertion by the great body of scientific workers was a shameful thing. Yet some of his experiments, by the journalist's account, were wantonly cruel. He might perhaps have purchased his social peace by abandoning his investigations, but he apparently preferred the latter, as most men would who have once fallen under the overmastering spell of research. He was unmarried, and had indeed nothing but his own interest to consider. I felt convinced that this must be the same man. Everything pointed to it. It dawned upon me that the Puma, and the other animals, which had now been brought with other luggage into the enclosure behind the house, were destined. And a curious, faint odor, the halitosis of something unfamiliar, an odor that had been in the background of my consciousness hitherto, suddenly came forward into the forefront of my thoughts. It was the antiseptic odor of the dissecting room. I heard the Puma growling through the wall, and one of the dogs yelped as though it had been struck. Yet, surely, and especially to another scientific man, there was nothing so horrible in vivisection as to account for this secrecy. And by some odd leap in my thoughts, the pointed ears and luminous eyes of Montgomery's attendant came back again before me with the sharpest definition. I stared before me out at the green sea, frothing under a freshening breeze, and let these and other strange memories of the last few days chase one another through my mind. What could it all mean? A locked enclosure on a lonely island, a notorious vivisector, and these crippled and distorted men. Dun dun dun! So ends chapter 8, and so begins chapter... Wait, did I say chapter 8? Chapter 7, and on to chapter 8! Yum, 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 yum. They have no soap. I wonder. Next English, by the way, an episode of Freakazoid parodied this book. It was titled The Island of Dr. Mystico and had Tim Curry playing the eponymous doctor. Made human orangutans called Orangaman. Okay then. D20 ASMR, thank you, $5. This book is just about a poor man who stumbled into the list of those conventions. It was zombie toting on Big BB. Next Angelus, thank you for the $20. I think what people here mean by grimdark is actually dark fantasy, which is fantasy with a pessimistic and cynical attitude. One series I recommend in that genre is Malazan Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. I have never heard of that. Tim Curry! That episode of Freakazoid was great. I remember watching a YTP of that episode. D20 ASMR, thank you for the $5. 40k is grimdark, but also wacky and dumb in all the best ways. Just Google orcs believe red makes you faster. Chat has told me about that. Chat has told me about that. Hello, Beba. Hello, Yankee. D20 ASMR, thank you for the $. Had to become a member after seeing a clip about of you talking about the ATF Mega Base. Thank you, thank you. Apple Gambit, thank you for $2. Warhammer 40k is grimdark. And Berkeley 18, thank you for $2. The hell, Tolkien isn't grimdark. That's 40k. Well, the quote said anti-Tolkien. So, I suppose you're agreeing. Also, made anything for $. H.G. Wells tried to warn the world about furries and we didn't listen. Oh, no. No. Anti-copium, anti-Tolkien. I will also admit a very strong Tim Curry bias. I will always think he's the best. We didn't listen and we got Leah. That's so sad. Leah love. Angry Monkey on BPP. Funny thing about those conventions, the extras of the Brando movie actually had orgies in costume to cope with the horror show of production. What? Excuse me? Excuse me? You're saying the production of the island of Moreau was so bad? What? What? You didn't know? I don't think I wanted to know, to be honest. Look up Critical Drinker summary of the production hell. The production of that movie was extremely wild. What could have possibly been so wild about it that... What? There's a documentary and behind the scenes? It would be a better watch than the movie. Randall was a POS to everyone else too. It's Hollywood, they're all assholes. Hollywood celebs in the jungle with drugs. Sounds like a terrible time. Had 2 prima donnas as co-stars. Prima donna da 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 da. Well, how does that song go? Did you guys know Phantom of the Opera is not on Broadway anymore? Did you know Phantom of the Opera just got taken off of Broadway? I think earlier in April. You know? That's crazy. Did you know Phantom of the Opera is the longest running show on Broadway? Isn't that crazy? Heard that on the radio. For like 100 years. It hasn't been 100 years. Jesus Christ. Pretty sure Andrew Lloyd Webber is still alive and he's not 100 years old. He's 75. He's getting near. Phantom of the Opera. Broadway. We'll find some like nifty information about it. Tag love. Isn't Phantom of the Opera from the 70s? I don't know when... We're talking about the Broadway musical here. I'm not sure when that, Oh, 35 years. It's been going for 35 years. It debuted January 26, 1988. I fucking love that musical. Wow, that's short? What do you mean that's short? That's not that long? You guys are insane. How long do you think stuff goes on Broadway for? This is literally the longest show on Broadway. It's the longest... What are you guys talking about? As long as people will watch it. 100 years. Not 100 years. Not even 100 years. We're talking about Broadway. You guys are crazy. Colonel Saxon enjoys reading of Canterbury Tales. Ah. You've never heard of Broadway. You liar. I don't know when the actual book came out. When did the book come out? The book that it's all based on. 1911. Jiminy. Jiminy. I heard the book is pretty bad. I heard... Oh, wait. No, this says 1909. 1909. Oh, published in English in 1911. I heard the book is bad and the fucking characters are all really annoying. And the things they do don't make any sense. But it's a wonderful musical. Have you seen the movie with Leonidas from 300? The Phantom of the Opera movie? The one that had an underage female lead? For literally no reason. Gerard Butler? What? Yeah. The actress that played Christine Daae in the Phantom of the Opera movie was underage. Ah, so awkward. We'll never see the appeal of musicals. They're fun. No reason. It's Hollywood. True. Yeah, Hollywood moment. Real Hollywood moment. I thought she was like 27. What the fuck? I'm pretty sure in the original story she's like 27. Christine was underage in the book. It's an adaptation of the musical though. How old is she? How old is she in the book? I wonder if it ever even actually explicitly says. Oh, in the officier translation of the novel, Christine's age is given as 15 years old. However, this is a mistranslation of a passage that says her heart was as pure as that of a 15-year-old. The evidence of Christine's childhood friendship with Raoul and her studies at the Paris Conservatoire put her age at 21 years old. She's 21. Just translators fail at their jobs again. Tale as old as time. Song as old as rhyme. Translators fucking suck. Yeah, as usual. Translators making weird localization decisions. Making the 21-year-old 15. No, this was probably an honest mistake. This was probably an honest mistake. But it is fun to riff on translators. Red light alarm reviews, red lights. Don't read The Count of Monte Cristo if you don't like groomers. I mean, groomers can be fine in stories. You know what? Speaking of groomers, you know what's always funny to me? You know what's always fucking funny? People, you guys know the book Lolita. You guys know the book Lolita. It is the most, oh, you didn't actually read the book and you have no idea what you're talking about moment. Like 9 times out of 10. When people talk about the book Lolita. If you know, you know. Just people say the most stupid shit. People say the most stupid shit about Lolita. What's the book about? It's about a horrible man who does horrible things and destroys his life and destroys everyone's life around him. And he's painted as a very bad man throughout the entirety of the book. But if you ask any fucking brainlet, you ask fucking brainlets, the fucking oh no, Lolita, that's the child rapist book. Like, bro, it's just people are dumb. Apparently a brainlet. It's because of the movie. I never watched the movie. It looked like shit. I know the premise of the current book, I think, ruins the interpretations of the main theme. These people can't read. Next book club? Is Lolita public domain? I have no idea. Most of them probably never read it. It's just for some reason, for those of you who don't know, like, for some reason, Lolita is like, it's become like the staple of like, oh, look at how gross people are. Oh my god. Like, this is such a degenerate book. Anybody who reads this is a degenerate. This is so, oh my god, this is so fucked up. Wow. It's like, it's not really any different than reading a book about a serial killer. Like, you read a book about a serial killer, chances are the book's gonna be portraying them as a piece of shit. And that's what happens in Lolita, which you would know if you read the book. The point of the author to depict a bad person doing bad things, yes. Yeah, it's not glorifying it. It's literally doing the opposite of glorifying it. He's not painted as a great guy in the Kubrick film either. I wouldn't know, I haven't watched that. It's still copyrighted? And yet they love It from Stephen King, but won't talk about the book? It's because they haven't read the book, they only watched the movie. Space Pie, then come Big Pee. It's my birthday today, thank you for using my favorite version of your model today. Thank you! Happy birthday, Space Pie! Happy birthday, Space Pie! Happy birthday, dear Space Pie! Happy birthday to you! Anyways, yeah, it has some weird pedophilia in it. But it's okay, culture will give it a pass because it's a woman doing it to young boys. Chapter 8! The Crying of the Puma. Montgomery interrupted my tangle of mystification and suspicion about 1 o'clock, and his grotesque attendant followed him with a tray bearing bread, some herbs and other eatables, a flask of whiskey, a jug of water, and 3 glasses and knives. I glanced askance at this strange creature, and found him watching me with his queer, restless eyes. Montgomery said he would lunch with me, but that Moreau was too preoccupied with some work to come. Moreau, said I. I know that name. The devil you do, said he. What an ass I was to mention it to you. I might have thought. Anyhow, it will give you an inkling of our mysteries. Whiskey? No thanks, I'm an abstainer. I wish I'd been, but it's no use locking the door after the steed is stolen. It was that infernal stuff which led to my coming here. That and a foggy night. I thought myself in luck at the time, but Moreau offered to get me off. It's queer. Montgomery, said I suddenly as the outer door closed. Why has your man pointed ears? Damn, he said, over his first mouthful of food. He stared at me for a moment and then repeated, Pointed ears? Little points to them, said I, as calmly as possible, with a catch in my breath. And a fine black fur at the ledges. He helped himself to whiskey and water with great deliberation. I was under the impression that his hair covered his ears. I saw them as he stopped by me to put the coffee you sent on the table, and his eyes shined in the dark. By this time, Montgomery had recovered from the surprise of my question. I always thought, he said deliberately, with a certain accentuation of his flavoring of lisp, that there was something the matter with his ears from the way he covered them. What were they like? I was persuaded from his manner that this ignorance was a pretense. Still, I could hardly tell the man that I thought him a liar. Pointed, I said. Rather small and furry. Distinctly furry. But the whole man is one of the strangest beings I've ever set eyes on. A sharp, hoarse cry of animal pain came from the enclosure behind us. Its depth and volume testified to the Puma. I saw Montgomery wince. Yes, he said. Where did you pick up the creature? San Francisco. He's an ugly brute, I admit. Half-witted, you know. Can't remember where he came from. But I'm used to him, you know. We both are. How does he strike you? He's unnatural, I said. There's something about him. Don't think me fanciful, but it gives me a nasty little sensation, a tightening of my muscles when he comes near me. It's a touch of the diabolical, in fact. Montgomery had stopped eating while I told him this. Rum, he said. I can't see it. He resumed his meal. I had no idea of it, he said, and masticated. The crew of the schooner must have felt it the same. Made a dead set at the poor devil. You saw the captain? Suddenly the Puma howled again, this time more painfully. Montgomery swore under his breath. I had half a mind to attack him about the men on the beach. Then the poor brute within gave vent to a series of short, sharp cries. You are men on the beach, said I. What race are they? Excellent fellows, aren't they? Said he, absent-mindedly, knitting his brows as the animal yelled out sharply. I said no more. There was another outcry worse than the former. He looked at me with his dull grey eyes, and then took some more whiskey. He tried to draw me into a discussion about alcohol, professing to have saved my life with it. He seemed anxious to lay stress on the fact that I owed my life to him. I answered him distractedly. Presently our meal came to an end. The misshapen monster with the pointed ears cleared the remains away, and Montgomery left me alone in the room again. All the time he had been in a state of ill-concealed irritation at the noise of the vivisected Puma. He had spoken of his odd want of nerve, and left me to the obvious application. I found myself that the cries were singularly irritating, and they grew in depth and intensity as the afternoon went on. They were painful at first, but their constant resurgence at last altogether upset my balance. I flung aside a crib of Horace I had been reading, and began to clench my fist, to bite my lips, and to pace the room. Presently I got to stopping my ears with my fingers. The emotional appeal of those yells grew upon me steadily, grew at last to such an exquisite expression of suffering that I could stand it in that confined room no longer. I stepped out of the door into the slumberous heat of the late afternoon, and walking past the main entrance, locked again, I noticed, turned the corner of the wall. The crying sounded even louder out of the doors. It was as if all the pain in the world had found a voice. Yet had I known such pain was in the next room, and had it been dumb, I believe, I have thought since, I could have stood it well enough. It is when suffering finds a voice and sets our nerves quivering that this pity comes troubling us. But in spite of the brilliant sunlight and the green fans of the trees waving in the soothing sea breeze, the world was a confusion, blurred with drifting black and red phantasms, until I was out of earshot of the house and the checkered wall. 𝐿 chapter 8. Bow, 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 bow. These go by quickly. The chapters go by so quickly. But it didn't seem like there's that many chapters. So how is it that the book can be 5 hours? I guess it is quite long. I can't read Roman numerals. How many are left? Let's see here. We're on chapter 9, the thing in the forest. That would be 10, 20, 22. 22. We're not even halfway. We're not even halfway. Tonight's stream might be a bit longer. Although I also will probably have to split this up into 2 parts. You're not turning the pages, 𝐵𝗽𝗙, yeah. Do a part 2? Yeah, we're probably gonna have to do a part 2. I'm on pace to do half tonight, though. That's good. Yeah. It'd be nice if this was split up neatly into 2 parts. Extra long stream. Not 6 hours long. But, and here, thinking of $2 absurdism. Have you ever read 𝐏𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐞-𝐂𝐎𝐎𝑡? I have not. Everything in $2. The origin of cat voice has been discovered. Highlight alarm reviews don't. I read that. We can Red Remover. Thank you for the $5. Having an underage lead for the Phantom movie is weird, but not as strange as the time Brooke Shields was in Playboy when she was 10. That is quite weird. That is very weird, actually. Stream better not go to 5 AM again. No. Ever thought about reading horror? Well, I'd say that's about what we're reading right now. And I've read Lovecraft in the past on stream. If you like surrealism, I think 𝐏𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐞 might be good for you. Or a hit for you. I'll have to check it out. Enjoying this. You have a nice voice. Thank you. I gotta say, I don't believe you guys when you say I have a nice voice. Because I feel like most of the time when I read negativity about myself online, it's usually about my voice. I'm not fact-checking that. Being sincere, well, thank you. Oh, my voice, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Maybe it's a love-hate sort of thing. You have a reading voice, that's nice. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Take the compliment. Narration voice is different. It's gravelly. My voice is gravelly. Am I a dashing gentleman with a gravelly voice and a hint of baritone? This isn't helping the femboy accusations. Not a gravelly? Oh, okay. Cutie! Take me thing, 𝐵𝗡𝗡. Read this? Oh, I missed it. I missed it. I'm sorry. Hold on. Your voice is fine, Chief. Oh my god. You're not a boy. No, I'm not a boy. Femboy arc starts now. It's soft sounding. It's the high-pitched 𝗶𝗶𝗶 voice that is annoying. You mean the voice I make when I'm normally streaming? I can't help it. I get overexcited. I get overexcited and I can't control my voice. It's funny. I sound completely different when I'm in like company calls and stuff, I think. When I'm just talking to my coworkers, it's more something like this. I'm just dead. I think I sound dead and empty. You have a nice voice, thank you. I would assume you're just more low energy. I'm very low energy off stream. When I'm not on stream, I'm like, I'd say streaming, I'm like usually like at an 8 out of 10 energy. And when I'm not streaming, I'm at a 1. When I'm not streaming, I'm at a solid 1. Call Riz! Oh my god, thank you for the $2. I like your voice, even squeegee laugh. Oh my god. You know, I sound dead. Just more relaxed. Both extremes of energy are nice. What does a 10 look like? What does a 10 look like? When I'm talking about chorus. Too dependent on caffeine and sugar, true. I'm far too dependent on caffeine and sugar. Oh yeah, 10 is the Benadryl stream, yeah. Alright, let's start on chapter 9, The Thing in the Forest. I strode through the undergrowth that clothed the ridge behind the house, scarcely heeding whither I went. Passed on through the shadow of a thick cluster of straight-stemmed trees beyond it, and so presently found myself some way on the other side of the ridge. and descending towards a streamlet that ran through a narrow valley, I paused and listened. The distance I had come, or the intervening masses of thicket, deadened any sound that might be coming from the enclosure. The air was still. Then, with a rustle, a rabbit emerged, and went scampering up the slope before me. I hesitated and sat down on the edge of the shade. The place was a pleasant one. The rivulet was hidden by the luxuriant vegetation of the banks, save at one point where I caught a triangle patch of its glittering water. On the farther side, I saw through a bluish haze a tangle of trees and creepers, and above these again the luminous blue of the sky. Here and there a splash of white or crimson marked the blooming of some trailing epithet. Oh my goodness, epithet! I let my eyes wander over this scene for a while, and then began to turn over in my mind again the strange peculiarities of Montgomery's man. But it was too hot to think elaborately, and presently I fell into a tranquil state midway between dozing and waking. From this I was aroused, after I know not how long, by a rustling amidst the greenery on the other side of the stream. For a moment I could see nothing but the waving summits of the ferns and reeds. Then suddenly upon the bank of the stream appeared something. At first I could not distinguish what it was. It bowed its round head to the water and began to drink. Then I saw it was a man, going on all fours like a beast. He was clothed in bluish cloth and was of copper-colored hue, with black hair. It seemed that grotesque ugliness was an invariable character of these islanders. I could hear the suck of the water at his lips as he drank. I leaned forward to see him better, and a piece of lava detached by my hand went pattering down the slope. He looked up guiltily, and his eyes met mine. Forthwith he scrambled to his feet and stood wiping his clumsy hand across his mouth and regarding me. His legs were scarcely half the length of his body, so staring on one another out of countenance. He remained for perhaps the space of a minute. Oh my God! Then, stopping to look once or twice, he slunk off among the bushes to the right of me, and I heard the swish of the fronds grow faint in the distance and die away. Long after he had disappeared, I remained sitting up, staring in the direction of his retreat. My drowsy tranquillity had gone. I was startled by a noise behind me, and turning suddenly saw the flapping white tail of a rabbit vanishing up the slope. I jumped to my feet. The apparition of this grotesque half-bestial creature had suddenly populated the stillness of the afternoon for me. I looked around rather nervously and regretted that I was unarmed. Then I thought that the man I had just seen had been clothed in bluish cloth, had not been naked as a savage would have been, and I tried to persuade myself from the fact that he was, after all, probably a peaceful character, that the dull ferocity of his countenance belied him. Yet I was greatly disturbed at the apparition. I walked to the left along the slope, turning my head about and peering this way and that among the straight stems of the trees. Why should a man go on all fours and drink with his lips? Presently I heard an animal wailing again, and taking it to be the puma, I turned about and walked in a direction diametrically opposite to the sound. This led me down to the stream, across which I stepped and pushed my way up through the undergrowth beyond. I was startled by a great patch of vivid scarlet on the ground, and going up to it found it to be a peculiar fungus, branched and corrugated like a foliaceous lichen. But, oh my God, what are these words?
𝐏𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿.
Oh my God, 𝐏𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 of organic matter become liquid, typically during decomposition. Deliquescing into slime at the touch. And then, in the shadow of some luxuriant ferns, I came upon an unpleasant thing. The dead body of a rabbit covered with shining flies, but still warm and with the head torn off. I stopped aghast at the sight of the scattered blood. Here, at least one visitor to the island disposed of. There was no traces of other violence about it. It looked as though it had been suddenly snatched up and killed, and as I stared at the little furry body came the difficulty of how the thing had been done. The vague dread that had been in my mind since I had seen the inhuman face of the man at the stream grew distincter as I stood there. I began to realize the hardihood of my expedition among these unknown people. The thicket about me became altered to my imagination. Every shadow became something more than a shadow, became an ambush. Every rustle became a threat. Invisible things seemed watching me. I resolved to go back to the enclosure on the island. I suddenly turned away and thrust myself violently, possibly even frantically, through the bushes, anxious to get a clear space about me again. I stopped just in time to prevent myself emerging upon an open space. It was a kind of glade in the forest, made by a fall. Seedlings were already starting up to struggle for the vacant space. And beyond, the dense growth of the stems and twining vines and splashes of fungus and flowers closed in again. Before me, squatting together upon the fungoid ruins of the huge fallen tree, and still unaware of my approach, were 3 grotesque human figures. One was evidently a female. The other 2 were men. They were naked, save for swathings of scarlet cloth about the middle, and their skins were of a dull, pinkish drab color, such as I had seen in no savages before. They had fat, heavy, chinless faces, retreating foreheads, and a scant, bristly hair upon their heads. I had never seen such bestial-looking creatures. They were talking, or at least, one of the men was talking to the other 2, and all 3 had been too closely interested to heed the rustling of my approach. They swayed their heads and shoulders from side to side. The speaker's words came thick and sloppy, and though I could hear them distinctly, I could not distinguish what he said. He seemed to be reciting some complicated gibberish. Presenting his articulation became shriller, and spreading his hands, he rose to his feet. At that, the others began to gibber in unison, also rising to their feet, spreading their hands and swaying their bodies in rhythm with their chant. I noticed then the abnormal shortness of their legs and their length, clumsy feet. All 3 began slowly to circle around, raising and stamping their feet and waving their arms. A kind of tune crept into their rhythmic recitation, and a refrain, a lula or balula it sounded like. Their eyes began to sparkle and their ugly faces to brighten with an expression of strange pleasure. Saliva dripped from their lipless mouths. Suddenly, as I watched their grotesque and unaccountable measures, I perceived clearly for the first time what it was that had offended me, what had given me the 2 inconsistent and conflicting impressions of utter strangeness and yet of the strangest familiarity. The 3 creatures engaged in this mysterious rite were human in shape and yet human beings with the strangest air about them of some familiar animal. Each of these creatures, despite its human form, its rag of clothing, and the rough humanity of its bodily form, had woven into its movements, into the expression of its countenance, into its whole presence, some now irresistible suggestion of a hog, a swinish taint, the unmistakable mark of the beast. I stood overcome by this amazing realization, and then the most horrible questionings came rushing into my mind. They began leaping in the air, first one and then the other, whooping and grunting. Then one slipped and for a moment was on all fours, to recover indeed forthwith. But that transitory gleam of the true animalism of these monsters was enough. I turned as noiselessly as possible, and becoming every now and then rigid with the fear of being discovered, as a branch cracked or a leaf rustled, I pushed back into the bushes. It was long before I grew bolder and dared to move freely. My only idea for the moment was to get away from these foul beings, and I scarcely noticed that I had emerged upon a faint pathway amidst the trees. Then, suddenly traversing a little glade, I saw, with an unpleasant start, 2 clumsy legs among the trees, walking with noiseless footsteps parallel with my course, and perhaps 30 yards away from me. The head and upper part of the body were hidden by a tangle of creeper, I stopped abruptly, hoping the creature did not see me. The feet stopped as I did. So nervous was I that I controlled an impulse to headlong flight with the utmost difficulty. Then, looking hard, I distinguished through the interlacing network the head and body of the brute I had seen drinking. He moved his head. There was an emerald flash in his eyes as he glanced at me from the shadow of the trees, a half-luminous color that vanished as he turned his head again. He was motionless for a moment, and then, with a noiseless tread, began running through the green confusion. In another moment he had vanished behind some bushes. I could not see him, but I felt that he had stopped and was watching me again. What on earth was he? Man or beast? What did he want with me? I had no weapon, not even a stick. Flight would be madness. At any rate, the thing, whatever it was, lacked the courage to attack me. Setting my teeth hard, I walked straight towards him. I was anxious not to show the fear that seemed chilling my backbone. I pushed through a tangle of tall, white-flowered bushes and saw him 20 paces beyond, looking over his shoulder at me and hesitating. I advanced a step or two, looking steadfastly into his eyes. "Who are you?" said I. He tried to meet my gaze. "No," he said suddenly, and turning, went bounding away from me through the undergrowth. Then he turned and stared at me again. BDM. I turned BDM on. BDM bad? I'm scared. His eyes shone brightly out of the dusk under the trees. My heart was in my mouth, but I felt my only chance was bluff, and walked steadily towards him. He turned again and vanished into the dusk. Once more I thought I caught a glimpse of his eyes, and that was all. There we go. Sorry. For the first time I realized how the lateness of the hour might affect me. The sun had set some minutes since. The swift dusk of the tropics was already fading out of the eastern sky, and a pioneer moth fluttered silently by my head. Unless I would spend the night among the unknown dangers of the mysterious forest, I must hasten back to the enclosure. The thought of a return to that pain-haunted refuge was extremely disagreeable. But still more so was the idea of being overtaken in the open by the darkness and all that darkness might conceal. I gave one more look into the blue shadows that had swallowed up this odd creature, and then retraced my way down by the slope towards the stream, going in as I judged in the direction from which I had come. I walked eagerly, my mind confused with many things, and presently found myself in a level pace among scattered trees. The colorless clearness that comes after the sunset flush was darkling. My goodness. Hold on. The blue sky above grew momentarily deeper, and the little stars one by one pierced the attenuated light. The interspaces of the trees, the gaps in the further vegetation, that had been hazy blue in the daylight, grew black and mysterious. I pushed on. The color vanished from the world. The treetops rose against the luminous blue sky in inky silhouette, and all below that outline melted into one formless blackness. Presently the trees grew thinner, and the shrubby undergrowth more abundant. Then there was a desolate space covered with a white sand, and then another expanse of tangled bushes. I did not remember crossing the sand opening before. I began to be tormented by a faint rustling upon my right hand. I thought at first it was fancy, for whenever I stopped there was a silence, save for the evening breeze in the treetops. Then, when I turned to hurry on again, there was an echo to my footsteps. I turned away from the thickets, keeping to more open ground and endeavoring by sudden turns now and then to surprise something in the act of creeping upon me. I saw nothing, and nevertheless my senses of another presence grew steadily. I increased my pace, and after some time came to a slight ridge, crossed it, and turned sharply, regarding it steadfastly from the further side. It came out black and clear-cut against the darkling sky, and presently a shapeless lump heaved up momentarily against the skyline and vanished again. I felt assured now that my tawny-faced antagonist was stalking me once more, and coupled with that was another unpleasant realization that I had lost my way. For a time I hurried on, hopelessly perplexed, and pursued by that stealthy approach, whatever it was. The thing either lacked the courage to attack me, or it was waiting to take me at some disadvantage. I kept studiously to the open. At times I would turn and listen, and presently I had half persuaded myself that my pursuer had abandoned the chase, or was a mere creation of my disordered imagination. Then I heard the sound of the sea. I quickened my footsteps almost into a run, and immediately there was a stumble in my rear. I turned suddenly and stared at the uncertain trees behind me. One black shadow seemed to leap into another. I listened, rigid, and heard nothing but the creep of the blood in my ears. I thought that my nerves were unstrung, and that my imagination was tricking me, and turned resolutely towards the sound of the sea again. In a minute or so the trees grew thinner, and I emerged upon a bare, low headland running out into the somber water. The night was calm and clear, and the reflection of the growing multitude of the stars shivered in the tranquil heaving of the sea. Some way out, the wash upon an irregular band of reef shone with a pallid light of its own. Westward, I saw the zodiacal light mingling with the low brilliance of the evening star. The coast fell away from me to the east, and westward it was hidden by the shoulder of the cape. Then I recalled the fact that Moreau's beach lay to the west. A twig snapped behind me, and there was a rustle. I turned and stood facing the dark trees. I could see nothing, or else I could see too much. Every dark form in the dimness had its ominous quality, its peculiar suggestion of alert watchfulness. So I stood for perhaps a minute, and then, with an eye to the trees still, turned westward to cross the headland, and as I moved, one among the lurking shadows moved to follow me. My heart beat quickly. My heart beat quickly. Presently, the broad sweep of a bay to the westward became visible, and I halted again. The noiseless shadow halted a dozen yards from me. A little point of light shone on the further bend of the curve, and the gray sweep of the sandy beach lay faint under the starlight. Perhaps 2 miles away was that little point of light. To get to the beach, I should have to go through the trees where the shadows lurked, and down a bushy slope. I could see the thing rather more distinctly now. It was no animal, for it stood erect, and then I opened my mouth to speak and found a hoarse phlegm choked my voice. I tried again and shouted, "Who is there?" There was no answer. I advanced a step. The thing did not move, only gathered itself together. My foot struck a stone. That gave me an idea. Without taking my eyes off the black form before me, I stooped and picked up this lump of rock. But at my motion, the thing turned abruptly, as a dog might have done, and slunk obliquely into the further darkness. Then I recalled the schoolboy expedient against big dogs, and twisted the rock into my handkerchief, and gave this a turn around my wrist. I heard a movement further off among the shadows, as if the thing was in retreat. Then suddenly my tense excitement gave way. I broke into a profuse perspiration and fell a-trembling with my adversary rout, and this weapon in my hand. It was some time before I could summon resolution to go down through the trees and bushes upon the flank of the headland to the beach. At last I did at a run, and as I emerged from the thicket upon the sand, I heard some other body come crashing after me. At that I completely lost my head with fear and began running along the sand. Forthwith there came the swift patter of soft feet in pursuit. I gave a wild cry and redoubled my pace. Some dim black things about 3 or 4 times the size of rabbits went running or hopping up from the beach towards the bushes as I passed. So long as I live, I shall remember the terror of that chase. I ran near the water's edge and heard every now and then the splash of the feet that gained upon me. Far away, hopelessly far, was the yellow light. All the night about us was black and still. Splash, splash, came the pursuing feet, nearer and nearer. I felt my breath going, for I was quite out of training. It whooped as I drew, and I felt a pain like a knife at my side. I perceived the thing would come with me long before I reached the enclosure, and desperate and sobbing for my breath, I wheeled round upon it and struck it as it came up to me. Struck with all my strength, the stone came out of the sling of the handkerchief as I did so. As I turned, the thing which had been running on all fours rose to its feet, and the missile fell fair on its left temple. The skull rang loud, and the animal man blundered into me, thrust me back with its hands, and went staggering past me to fall headlong upon the sand with its face in the water, and there it lay still. I could not bring myself to approach that black heap. I left it there, with the water rippling about it, under the still stars, and giving it a wide berth, pursued by my way towards the yellow glow of the house. And presently, with a positive effect of relief, came the pitiful moaning of the Puma, the sound that had originally driven me out to explore this mysterious island. At that, though I was faint and horribly fatigued, I gathered together all my strength and began running again towards the light. I thought I heard a voice calling me. Alright. So ends Chapter 9. And I think we shall leave off on Chapter 10 for the night. The scenic thank you for the $2, better than any audiobook. It's terrible. Audiobooks, I like audiobooks. God, I always get so self-conscious when I stumble. How many chapters are there? 22. 22. So we'll have to be a bit more aggressive in part 2, perhaps. Oh, tonight's Miss Super List. Yes, please. I don't know if I'll catch them all, but... I think if there's no thanks from the cat girls, if I want someone to pee on the floor, I'll do it myself. Firelight Alarm Reviews, thank you for the anyone want a cat girl girlfriend, but nobody willing to do what it takes to get one. Well, apparently, Dr. Moreau is. Berserk Rising, Big BB, thank you, Pippa. Oh. You have a talent for these read-alongs. I missed it. Your reading voice is definitely a delight. It shows us such a different side in you. Well, thank you. Rabbit, thank you for the amazing stream, Diva. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Let's see. Oh, it's not that long. For Ghost is singer, the $11 comfy stream. You're doing great. Thank you. Alright. Let's... Part 1 and... Super chat reading time. Okay. Really wish Doctor, thank you for the $20. Thank you for the stream, Pippa. The read-alongs have always been some of my favorites. Looking forward to part 2. Well, hell yeah. I'm glad you guys like them, especially because they're so different from my normal content. Thanks for melding, I'm Big BB. This was a joy, Rabbit. Thank you. Oh, thoughts on Chapter 9, though. Thoughts on Chapter 9. What do you guys think? I thought that was... It still didn't capture the same magic as Chapter 4. But it was definitely a major upgrade. I definitely liked Chapter 9. Chapter 9 was creepy, yeah. Definitely creepy. I like how he's willing to describe the monsters rather than leaving it purely up to imagination. But the way that he describes them also leaves a lot of room for imagination, you know? Like, it gives just enough of a description where you can kind of like imagine it in your mind and you're like, and you're not like straining to try and envision exactly what the author was intending. The monsters sound disgusting, yeah. They sound like they'd be in the uncanny valley. Because, like, he didn't even realize that Montgomery's aide was inhuman. And so it makes you wonder, like when he describes the face as a muzzle, is that just foreshadowing? Because surely if it was like a real animal muzzle, he'd be like, oh. But I guess by like protruding muzzle, he'd meant just like an unnaturally elongated mouth area. Perhaps the nose and the chin and the mouth reach out just a bit too far compared to the average person. Yeah, it's interesting. Why the long face? Oh, one of the descriptions that got me was when he was talking about the chins and foreheads. The chins and hold on. Let me find that part. Oh god, it shot me all the way back up to the bean. Hold on. Forehead. Let me reread that part. Was it? They had fat, heavy, chinless faces, retreating foreheads, and a scant, bristly hair upon their heads. It almost makes me think of like, maybe like vampires? Window sounds, sorry. Like maybe, yeah, like goblins? Mole men? Chinless faces. Their chins being like, perhaps not gone entirely, but pulled back. Maybe entirely chinless. And if their faces are fat, perhaps that's why it appears chinless? Really does, like mole men. I think mole men is good. Cleavy is here, oh my god. Goblins, gnomes, I don't know. Retreating foreheads. That also is kind of like just a strange, slightly abnormal imagery. Retreating foreheads. So like the top of their head is just a bit too smooth, like an animal's. Interesting. Super dogs named Dolores, red eyes, are we gonna get stabbed? Talking pole pressing in front Dolores, we all have a coal risk. You're just brave enough to not hide it from the world. Bahamet Dolores, Pippa Baka, no bully owie. Tony Stark in front Dolores, poor Bismarck left out in the range after getting cooked by a Pokemon villain. Shut up. Bismarck is dead. Mike the creepy caller, thank you for the $5. You should read I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Still amazing. And Dolores, is this the story that terrible movie was about? I haven't watched the movie, so I don't know how bad it is, but Big Classic and Big B put the description in the AI image machine. Oh my god. Maybe we can do that afterwards. The Volatile thing, Dolores, but are you reading super chats? Donatello, Captain of Bosses, thing from Dolores. Pippa, the raid on the BAB supply unit went wrong. They trained the bears to use guns. They got private parts. Then more. What? Cool Riz, dinger, the $10. Good girl. Then Talkin, dinger, the $10. I feel smarter already thanks to the glasses. Wait a minute, dinger, $10. I'm just busting your balls, Pippa. You're doing fine. Yoko Watamata, dinger, with the gift PP. Nymals, thinking with $5. The cat girl wasn't in the books, but the film adaptations included her because of one of H.G. Wells' rivals wrote a similar story to Moreau with the cat girl. Mercenary thing, $2. YouTube is making me have to get creative with words. Fiction for Eternity, thinking with the $5. Completely off topic, but I'm hoping to get more VTubers to join the COG army and play Gears of War, aid us in fending off the Locust Horde. Oh, slightly off topic, but you brought up YouTube and it made me think of Twitch. I was so annoyed. Earlier, I was watching Twitch streamers. I was scrolling through. And I was like, whoa. Nina Kosaka is live on Twitch. And I clicked it. And it ended! It ended! I've never had that happen before. Where it says somebody's live and I click on their name and it's ended. It's not even like I clicked on right as they were ending. I was just so taken aback. I was like, what the fuck? It happens. I hate that so much. Cause then you're like, it's like gaslighting you. It's like, were they ever actually live, or did you just like what happened here? It's so annoying. Bad timing. God. I wanted to watch some Nina. That's okay. I found another streamer to watch. Her name is Jummy. She's cute. She's a cute little monkey. I like her. I'm enjoying her. Enjoying her streams. Also watched some Hannah. She was what? Or Hannah? I don't know how you pronounce it. She was doing like a subathon thing, and she was watching this video that had like it was like a walkthrough of like Japanese hotels, perhaps? I'm not sure what they were exactly. But they were cute. They were cute videos. Cute videos. They're like a little egg you crack open eggs with. This doesn't make any sense. Okay, anyways, Mr. Yard, thank you for front doors. Will's prose is a lot better in your head than read out loud, but you're doing a fine job of it. Thank you. Thank Laddie. Thank you, Dolores. Dear Diary, I took a Culver's Docky to the movies. I would not do that. I don't have the self-esteem for that. Third 410 for the 4,000 cops. Perfect second monitor content while I work. Oh, I'm glad. Oddball the Righteous, thank you for Dolores. So Shandol would want to meet you and collab, so how about reading a book together? I don't know if we'd really get to interact if we were reading a book together. But you do have the Docky? I don't have the Docky. I have to commission one. I have to commission a Docky. But I think I'm gonna commission crochet doll first. I want to commission a crochet doll first. And then I'm gonna commission some figures. And then maybe I'll commission the Docky. It's just the Docky is so expensive. A Docky is so expensive. Can you and Shando just smooch already? I would smooch Shando. Get a big doll for a lap plush. How can it be expensive? Because there's no Colris Dakimakura just out there, so I have to commission art. What's the other thing, for Lord? Did you see Mume at Hooters? Poor waitress was dead inside? I have not. $100 from Cuddly Octopus. Yeah, but then I also have to commission the art. So that might end up being like $400. That might end up being like $400. Could be even more if I do like double-sided. I don't think I have the what's the word? I don't think I have the cringe in me to do like the not safe for work double-sided. I know that's like the staple, right? I know that's like the staple with Dakimakuras is you get the one side that's like safe for work and the other side that's not safe for work, but I just don't think I'd be able to stand it. I don't I think it would just make me flustered every single time I look at it, and then I wouldn't be able to fall asleep. Have the other side be silly. Yeah, I gotta make the other side silly. Welcome back, thank you for the 134. Why not get AI art commando to do it? Because it's not the same. Full raising or $10 DocuFund. Oh my god. AI art has its place. Right? I like AI art. But I don't think I'd want to spend $100 on a Dakimakura using like AI art. Because I just don't think it would have like the same spirit and soul to it. You know what I mean? Although you guys have done really well with the AI stuff. Absolutely, yeah. Is all garbage though? No soul? I really like a lot of AI art. It's come a long way. If you use the Daki correctly, it helps you fall asleep. I don't know what you mean by that statement, and I'm too scared to press further. Malcolm Lang, thank you for the 134. It attracts the pseudo-artistic people. What was the conversation about at this point? Boy, vending friendlers, methinks thou doth protest too much. Oh, Shakespeare. Mr. Eternus, thank you for $2. I knew a pro VA. She was insanely narcissistic. Assault Gaming, thank you for the $5. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Wait, wrong book. 2 legs good, 4 legs bad. That's better. Hey, Mr. J, thank you $2. Thanks for the bedtime story. One joke, man, thank you $2. Did you have to use the head? What? What is start, thank you $2. Chapter 5, man shouts angrily at God and is sad. CJ Odell, thank you for the $2. Pippa's new outfit is all cute, thank you. Code name Michael, thank you for $5. Hey Pippa, your voice is wonderful. If only you could... Oh, if you could only pick... Wait, we had the whole conversation about this one. Use the head means pee in the toilet? What? Hug the Daki? That's it? Yeah, just hug. Dakimakras are just for hugging. And Daki equals body pillow. Cool man, front doors. Pippa reading book ASMR. Firelight alarm reviews. Front doors. Pippa, are those rabbits your grandparents? Yeah. Head restroom? Yeah, hugging. Head is military talk for bathroom. Ah. Only starting with the $2. The 𝐒𝐸𝐿𝐼𝐴N. Lol. Arclight, thank you for the 670. Have you read Patrick O'Brien's books? I don't think so. And per creatine, thank you for the $5. If I had to pick one book to take with me and read over and over for the rest of my life, it would be Lord of the Rings. Always an amazing read. Is it both? What? Pippa, I won't lie, I liked your cover song. I don't know which one you're talking about, but thank you. Frog Jupiter, thank you, Dolores. Will you read 𝐶𝑯𝑦𝒀𝐿 comics next time? No. Mr. Grant, thank you, Dolores. Could we do your unread books for next book club? Maybe. Ex-Angeles, thank you, for Dolores. To be honest, I read a lot of ebooks lately, but the stuff I'm reading consists of gender bender erotica. Thanks for the information. Becca Noise, thank you, Dolores. Pippa doesn't like bodice rippers. And per creatine, thank you, for the $2. The hell, Tolkien is grimdark. That's 40k. E20 ASMR, thank you, for $1. Had to become a member after seeing a clip of you talking about the ATF. Mega base. Sydney Adipol, thank you, for $1. Hey Pippa, just wanted to tell you yesterday's collab was mega cute. Didn't know you spike JP, smart bunny. Not as smart as genius Owie though. Owie stupid. Pippa smart. Next Angeles, $10. The director quit making movies for over a decade and just recently made a new one. An adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's The Color Out of Space, starring Nicolas Cage. That sounds terrible. Still gaming, thank you for $5. Rats. We are the rats. Celebrating now. Another birthday bash. Pippa! It's your birthday today. Cake and ice cream is on the shelf. It's on my birthday. Rabbit, thank you for the $2. Take the compliment and my money! And Mule, thank you for the 1337. Voice is fine. Good reading so far. Thank you. Arclight Redux, thank you for the 670. You have a lovely voice. Culver's would love it. Shut up! Shut up! Tony Stark, thank you for the $2. I see great improvement in comparison to old VODs. Think so? I feel like I'm so out of practice. Oh, speaking of AI generated, this background is AI generated. This background is AI generated. I was like, I want to set like a cool theme. A cool ambiance. So looks pretty good though. Thank you. I generated it in like 5 seconds. I always thought AI backgrounds are great. I think AI is perfect for backgrounds because like, well, backgrounds, especially for like stream, you don't really need to look that closely at them. Backgrounds are the perfect use for AI art, yeah. There's definitely like I definitely prefer commissioned backgrounds. But it's just that to commission a background for these streams is what? That'd be what? Like $150 perhaps on the cheaper end if I wanted something of this quality. And then I'd have to wait for it. It's like I can just use AI to pump it out real quick. Think Laddie, think Jules, your background ironically looks like the Matrix. As a background artist, I'm offended. Oh well, stay mad. Ryan B, thank you for the Lord's High people. I want to tell you that I finally became a big baby. Thank you. Blue Witch Doctor, thank you for $1. Thank you for $5. Ah, take the compliments, Rabbit. Your voice is nice. Thank you. Hi, thank you for the $10. Did you know that Nike stole their slogan from a murderer? Just do it were his last words before they flipped the switch. Welcome to the dark side. We had cookies, but I ate them all. Is this super chat from 2010? Oh my god. Eldorado, thank you for the $10. Hi Pippa, I wasn't able to watch much of the stream earlier. I'm under the weather today, but I'll make sure to catch up with the VOD after the stream is over. Oh, I hope your day gets better, Eldorado. Thank you. Stepminder, thank you for $2. BGM makes it sound like a romance novel. Guy, thank you for $2. Sus Masters in the chat, and Fernal Saxon, thank you for $2. Shippa reading a bedtime story to the Hareens. Yeah, my BGM choice could have been better, but it's hard to find something that won't take down the VOD. For some reason, all the horror BGMs that I used to use quite destructive. What is the Gunslinger thing to Lord Show? I read The Great Gatsby, a movie Great Gatsby AI movie trailer tomorrow? Oh yeah, I need to prepare for that. Dread Pirate Roberts and your Frondlor's AI is perfect for more than backgrounds. Trash posting has never been faster. That's probably what I'll spend the rest of the night doing. Assuming I don't get to bed on time. I should really just go to bed on time. I should just go to bed and I should prepare tomorrow. I don't know why I have this stupid idea that I need to do stuff before I go to sleep. I can just do it in the morning. I can do it in the morning. Why do I do this to myself? Why do I do this to myself, chat? Yeah, there's no reason to stay up. Restful in mod chat, thank you. What about everything from Laura's nice comfy background sound while I chill out with some games? You make a good audio narrator. You'd make a good audiobook narrator. Well, hire me, Audible. Hire me, Audible, or whoever does audiobook readings. Listen, you guys can recommend me to people. I won't oppose it. If you want to recommend me to audiobook companies, I'm just saying. I like reading. I like reading. I'm just saying. If you want to support me without doing so financially. That's a thing. Yeah, audiobooks? They'd look at one stream and say no, probably. Background noise, is Dr. Moreau your GP? I only ask because the ears. Space Piloting and the $2 audiobooks are edited. You're great in one take. Oh, thank you. Apple Gambit, thank you $2. Blood for the Blood Goddess. Lacinic, thank you for the $5. I work nights, so I love hearing your streams. Roberto Chavez, thank you for the $20. Hey Pippa, Lurker, thanks for the laughs. Keeps me sane during the recent trying times. Great stream, reminds me of being read to by my family when I was young. Take care of yourself. Brush with Culver's. Thank you. Well, thank you for the $5. The stream has been a unique and enjoyable experience. I'm glad. Jason Cardo, thank you for the $2. So this is the origin of all furries. Red Pirate Robert, thank you for the $5. Oh, I read that. Tomato Flakes, thank you for the $2. It's me, back for another beep tax. Gets recommended a funny bunny to read your company's books. Look her up and see her say she wants to shoot up a Walmart. 9 out of 10 dentists recommend Colress. Well, I'm gonna become a dentist, and I'll say 1 out of 1 dentist recommends Colress. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, I'm gonna end that off here tonight. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Good one, Pippa. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Replace that last one, huh? Yeah. Yeah. You wanna share him? No. Spread of God, thank you for the $5. Great stream, Pippa. Your reading voice is so relaxing to listen to. Get some rest. We all need a good sleep schedule. Even black-eyed ship girls. Oh my god. Okay. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I'm not sure when I'll do the part 2 of this. Maybe... I don't know. Maybe next week? I don't know. I don't know. But to cringe! But to cringe! Oh yeah, pick somebody to rate. Let's see here. How about some Urika? I'll send you off to Urika. Arclight, thank you for the 5 GPPs. Thank you.